Everyone, we're the meeting to order. Um, Board of Selectmen regular meeting for Wednesday, February 11th. It is 5:02, and we will call the meeting to order. Jeff? Did you want to call the Board of, well, we'll wait until we get to that item on the agenda.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I'll start with my remarks. Wanted folks to know that there will be an informative session for board, commission, and committee members reviewing the rules of order, the Robert's Rules of Order, the Freedom of Information Act, and the Woodbridge Charter as it relates to conducting town meetings and commissions on Thursday, February 26th at 6:30 p.m. at the Woodbridge Center Cafe. All members of all boards are invited to attend. It will be an informative session and where we will have questions and answers, and it will also be filmed for those who cannot attend, so they might be able to benefit from it subsequently. This month also, on the 24th at 6:30 at the library meeting room, I'll be holding what will be the first of a neighbor-to-neighbor monthly in-person community conversation where I will meet with neighbors throughout town. And these meetings are designed just to make it easier for more residents to participate and share their thoughts, and also ask questions and just generally speaking, improve communications as far as what we're doing, what is happening in town, and what folks are thinking about what's happening in town. I want to take a moment also to remind everyone that the expanded tax relief took effect in January. And so if you yourself are a senior, you should look into this. And if you know of a senior, please take a look at it. It is based on income levels, and any details that you might want, you can just call the assessor and they will have all the details. But that has been expanded. So if you haven't qualified in the past, you may qualify at this point in time. And we are in the middle of we are going through our budget cycle. It is a particularly challenging year for many reasons, and we will be continuing that. The Board of Selectmen will be meeting next Tuesday to go over our recommendations that we will hope to present to the Board of Finance for their consideration. So be aware of that. And that'll do for my comments, but before we move into the second item of executive session, I'd like to ask the board to indulge me, and I should mention as part of my comments, I apologize for not being there in person. I'm not feeling well, and thought it would be better for me and for those who are in that room if I was not present there at this time. So please excuse me for that, and I apologize in advance for that. But to that end, I was hoping we could I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to move up Deputy First Selectman nomination as a next item on our agenda to appoint Steve. Do I have so that Steve being present there could continue on with the meeting, and in case I have to go off camera. Do I have a second?
So the
motion
is
the agenda.
is to change the agenda or to nominate Steve?
The motion is to amend the agenda to allow us to
Okay.
take action as appropriate for Deputy First Selectman nomination.
So I will second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And now the next item on the agenda will be the executive session, joint
No,
session
no,
with the
no.
Town Planning and Zoning Commission
No, Mika.
pursuant to section 1-206B for open communities. Yes.
We have to do the Deputy First Selectman nomination now.
Oh, I'm sorry. We just did the thank you. So now I'll make a motion that Steve Munno I'd like to nominate Steve Munno as our Deputy First Selectman. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
All in favor?
Nope. I
Yes.
have a thank you, Mika. I just want to make the point and share the observation that potentially for the first time in Woodbridge's history, we have 4 female selectmen members, each of which bring value to the board, of course. One, a fresh perspective amongst many other attributes. One who has successfully worked across the aisle on the Board of Ed. One who has served as first selectman and has great expertise. And one who, as I think the board's only unaffiliated, represents most, if not the majority, if not close to, of the voting body in Woodbridge. And I think it's important to have gender representation in leadership. And I would urge you to consider having a female deputy first selectman.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate that. I certainly can understand, would ordinarily be very, and generally what I do is try to consider those types of things. But in this particular instance, Steve has been the deputy for the last 2 years. There's a relationship that we have that is important in terms of when I'm not present, which is the function of that. He's also had been an advisory person for me. And as such, it's important that in my mind, it's important from a continuity standpoint, as well as from a personal, from a standpoint of my position, that Steve continue to be the deputy selectman. But I certainly appreciate, and I can understand that, and I would certainly consider that. I hope that it would be considered, what you're saying would be considered in the future. But in this particular instance, particularly with some of the things on our agenda as we go forward for the next 2 years, I feel strongly that Steve would be the best suited for that. But thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Any other comments? Call the vote. All in favor? For Steve?
Can I vote for myself on this?
Yeah, you're allowed to vote for yourself. I'll vote with Steve. I assume is Lauren voting?
Lauren's hand is raised.
Yeah.
She has her hand is up.
So,
All opposed? Amy, I'm sorry, did you oppose?
no, I voted for Steve.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Steve, you want to kind of handle it from here, or you want me to continue?
For this portion, I don't have no, it's on the agenda, so I will take it from here. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is the executive session, which is a joint session with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission. Jeff, would you like to call your meeting to order, and then we'll move into executive session?
Sure. So my name's Jeff Kennedy. I'm the chair of the Town Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm calling our commission into order on Wednesday, February 11, 2026 at 5:11 p.m. So now TPZ is now in session.
Okay, great. So at this time, I'd like to move us into executive session, joint session with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, pursuant to Section 1-206B for the Open Communities Litigation Strategy and Discussion, docket number HHD-CV22-6166209-S, case name Open Communities Trust LLC et al. Versus Town Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Woodbridge et al. I'd like to invite Attorney Nick Beaumonte and our attorneys for the case into executive session with us as well. Tony, are you in on this too, or no? I'll invite Tony Genovese, our finance director, in as well.
He's still administrative officer.
Yeah.
Get stuck. Okay, so a moment for others to leave. Yeah.
Yes. So we will move into executive session and allow others to clear out. We are out of executive session, and no motions were made and no actions were taken. We will now move to our next item on the agenda, which is public comment. And I'll just say for a moment, for those of you who are just tuning in, Mika is with us remotely, as is Maria, and I will handle some of the management of the meeting in Mika's stead. For public comment, speakers, I believe we have some people here for public comment, and if anyone would like to come up, please do. I'll note speakers are asked to state their full name and address for the record prior to making remarks. Each person who would like to speak will have up to 3 minutes. The board may limit the time allotted to public comment to ensure the remainder of the meeting can continue. The board generally does not engage in dialogue or respond to public comments at the time they are offered. However, items that come up in public comment may be addressed in the future as appropriate. As a reminder for anyone who's not able to attend these meetings in person, written public comment can be submitted and will be shared with the board in the meeting materials and included in the record of a given meeting, so long as they are received prior to 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to come up to make public comment?
Just gonna rock, paper, scissors it. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Diana McCarthy-Berkery. I'm at 18 Ranch Road, Woodbridge, Connecticut. I was observing the discussions about the proposed finance for the town, the budget, and listening to Public Works a little bit talk about some of the upgrades and things that need to happen in the building. Previously, I'd met with Mika and talked about having energy audits done and benchmarking and offered my service to support that. I think that's moved forward at this point. I know we're in a good place with United Illuminating where we can have ASHRAE Level 2 audits done at no charge, which is great because that will provide us and Public Works a lot of information about the energy systems, like our HVAC, our lighting, water heating, any of the systems that we have in our buildings that consume energy. We'll learn about where they stand, how close they are to early retirement. One nice thing that I want folks to be aware of is that through Energize Connecticut, we have 0% on-bill financing for municipalities, which is great, which means up to $500,000 we can get financing for any energy efficiency upgrades. So if we have mechanical systems that need to be replaced in our municipal or Board of Education buildings, we can have the energy audit done, we can have it priced out. It's competitively bid already for through the Energize Connecticut program. And in some cases, the 0% on-bill financing can be paid back up to 5 years. You can also sometimes ask for them to extend it to 7 years, which is great because it gives us a little more time to pay those things back. Typically, they try to have the energy savings be very comparable to whatever that on-bill financing charge is, so that you are really cash flow positive from the beginning with these retrofits and upgrades to equipment in town buildings, which we know at a time that we're talking about a budget, every dollar counts, and certainly $500,000 count even more. So we want to make sure we pay special attention to that. The other nice thing that you can talk to that about, in some cases, you can use up to 20% of those dollars on non-energy efficient related expenses. So this is something, again, we'll talk to them about in more detail, specifically as it applies to the town and to the projects. But for example, if you needed like your utility panel upgraded, right? You need your electrical panel upgraded. You could talk to them about that. In some cases, if you needed a roof and it was going to be a small portion, I think about 20% or less of the project, you could talk to them about having that rolled into that $500,000, right? So that's a good resource that towns and cities have been able to take advantage of for, I don't know, at least 10, 15 years now. It's unfortunately one of our best kept secrets in Connecticut, but hopefully the town of Woodbridge will be able to consider that. And while we are, in a very tight budget season.
Tony's been working.
Good. We're in a very tight budget season. There is really an opportunity here to try to save some of the dollars that are being asked for and maybe offset that through these funds. So thank you very much. Hope you have a great evening and stay warm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Liz Chicos, Richard Sweet Drive. Our town planner was tasked with reporting on how towns like Orange, Fairfield, and New Canaan have successfully reached the 10% affordable housing unit threshold that's required for a moratorium on 830G applications, like the one currently proposed on Beecher Road. Instead of doing that, he reported at the February 2nd TPZ meeting that he and Nick had put their heads together and come up with an overview of things that the commission should consider that will equate to, quote, more housing, period. He explained that developers could be given an option to pay a fee in lieu of meeting affordable housing requirements, and cited Mansfield as a town that has done this. Interestingly, the town of Mansfield eliminated provisions in its zoning code last year that allowed developers to pay fees in lieu of meeting affordable housing requirements after determining that the fees were not generating enough money to cover the cost of building affordable apartments. So, Mike's recommendations involve courting developers so that they will build market rate, high density apartments, thus increasing the population of Woodbridge, increasing the number of affordable units required while not providing affordable housing, and guaranteeing that 830G applications will continue to come in. To be clear, his proposal would result in an increase in 830G apartment complexes and an increase in market rate apartment complexes. He refuses to coherently answer direct questions from commission members regarding 830G. Why is that? I suspect it's because he doesn't want a moratorium on 830G. He's advocating for, and I quote, more housing, period. The TPZ Commission and the residents of Woodbridge deserve a coherent explanation of the things that towns like Orange, Fairfield, New Canaan have done to reach a moratorium on 830G. And if he isn't willing or able to do that, then we shouldn't be spending our ever-increasing tax dollars on his salary. On a side note, he never even visited 804 Fountain Street. He didn't compare the discrepancies between the applicant and the intervener's experts. And he acted so, shall we say, familiar with the applicant's attorney at 804 Fountain Street that a commission member asked if they were acquainted outside of the proceedings. I digress. Cheshire has the distinction of being the fastest growing city in Connecticut. Can you guess the third fastest growing city in Connecticut? Mansfield, the city that our town planner gives as an example that we should follow. I just wanted to share these concerns with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? Anybody else for public comment? No? All right, seeing no more public comment, we will move on to our next agenda item. And our next item on the agenda is the official dissolution of the ad hoc 2030 committee. Mika, can I pass this over to you?
Yes, I just wanted the board to know that the 2030 committee has been integrated into our EDC, so it will no longer be a committee that has been dissolved. And however, the work, so the individuals, some of the individuals who are involved in that are now on EDC, and we hope to continue the work, particularly the placemaking aspect of it, through EDC.
So did this changed the overall membership of EDC in terms of number of members, minority
No.
representation, or terms?
Everything is according to what it's supposed to be, or what it, what is outlined, what it is outlined to be. If I'm not mistaken, on EDC, there might be a higher ratio, but in answer to your question, it doesn't, there was a resignation and there were term expirations that allowed us to do this.
Without appointments, without going through the formal appointment process?
Part of it we did.
Okay.
Barry Schatz is to be appointed later on today.
Okay.
Filling, yeah, you'll see that in
And-
the, it's filling the
and
vacancy.
also- well,
Yes, and the other, yes,
Yeah,
we'll do those both.
Okay.
okay.
I just,
Bob Hill.
I didn't know
Right,
the
for-
process of,
They're not technically being merged.
okay.
Uh,
Okay.
They're not actually being merged,
Okay.
but they were working in concert together.
Yeah.
And so as part of the dissolution and because of the way the terms have expired, membership is sort of
Okay.
coming together in that way. So
So, and if you could refresh me, we didn't have ad hoc committees 25 years ago, so who creates them and who dissolves them?
for ad hoc committees, my understanding, and I'll defer to Nick and Mika, but my understanding is the first selectman appoints them or creates them and dissolves them.
And under what provision of the charter is that?
I'm going to turn to Nick since I don't have that at my fingertips.
Yeah, I think it would probably fall under the, well, it might not be the charter, it might be under the town agency section of the code, which I can check right now.
The ordinance or the state code, I'm sorry?
Ordinance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can, if you could just let me know for future reference, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Great. I'd like to move on to our next item, which is the Charter Revision Committee. It's actually the Charter Revision Commission, I believe. So we have a couple of items to wrap up following our previous meeting in which we appointed and made recommendations for this commission. We, as you will recall, each submitted our recommendations and put it together in a joint document. That merged document is in our packet, and wanted to make sure that we agreed that this represented all the recommendations that we put forth.
So if I could, I would just, I would like to make a motion for one correction, just so that it reads correctly, because there was a contingency before that no longer exists in the second paragraph. In the third sentence, it says, if adopted by the Board of Selectmen, these recommendations would not change or limit the scope of the CRC's work, referring to the Charter Revision Commission. I mean, my understanding is we agreed that we were adopting them, we were just having to create this document to reflect that. So the sentence should read, these recommendations do not change or limit the scope of the CRC's work.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that was sort of an introductory note to our discussion.
Right,
So, yes, in the
exactly.
merged
So it
document,
just,
yes,
now
agreed.
that
Yes.
we are adopting them, it's
Yes.
it's a matter of English
Agreed.
grammar,
I-
not substance.
I agree to that change.
So-
It's a sort of a grammatical or
Yeah, clerical.
clerical change. So
Yes, that's, so I would just, I mean, if you want me to formally do that in a motion and,
do we need a motion to make
Second
that
to
kind
that.
of small grammatical change? I'm not sure that's necessary.
I mean, since we're talking about it here, you
Okay.
might as well, but I
Okay,
think,
so-
I mean, Amy, I don't know that,
Yes.
clerical errors need to rise to the level of you guys amending in your motions, but it's.
I
however
don't
you-
care as long as it's corrected, it would, I
Great.
think it would strike odd to the Charter Revision
Sure.
Commission, they'd
Yeah.
say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Right. It was meant as an introductory.
That's,
note,
I
so,
think
yes.
that's what I was meant to do,
Yes.
so.
Let's correct the grammar and go forward from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
So with the corrections, yes, do we need to formally approve this, or just to
I think
concur
we've-
by consensus that this reflects our vote of the last meeting?
I think concurring by consensus is sensible since we've already approved
Okay.
the recommendations.
That'd be fine.
I feel good.
Okay, great.
Thank you to Allison for pulling it together.
The other item that we need to resolve in terms of the Charter Revision Commission is setting the date for the draft report submission. We have sort of the state requirements, or the state guidance allows up to 16 months for this process, but we can choose a date, and I'll note that while we can make that date that we ask for the draft report submission, the commission might finish up before that or might ask for more time, but
ask or just do more time, right?
Or do more time.
Yeah,
They would let us know. So it is it's guidance,
Yeah.
and I had shared throughout our preparation for this process various potential timelines, which were meant to be illustrative of when things might happen as a result of choosing a date. And so, as we've talked about, I think a date in late January could be appropriate, or potentially a date in October. So, understanding that once they submit a draft report, we will be under timeline to do things. So we will have up to 45 days to have our hearings. And then we might give recommendations back to the commission, and then they will have a timeline on which to come back. So there are some various considerations here, but I think I'm going to pull up because I don't have it.
I'm
in
trying to
front of me
find
yet.
my calendar to find out what day of the week the January 29th is. Sorry, it's a
I
Friday.
have it in my notes.
It's a Friday.
Yes. So I think the date that I had suggested is January 29th, 2027, and that puts us kind of after our series of budget meetings typically, and gives us, ultimately I think 45 days. We will have to have a hearing after we receive it, and our final hearing has to be no later than 45 days after receiving that draft report. And so what I wanted to be cautious of is not putting us in where we have to have a hearing amidst all of our budget meetings.
Yeah.
So either having it before, such that we have those hearings prior to the holidays, prior to the December holidays, or after our series of budget meetings.
Well, I think also in deference to the Charter Revision Commission, since we haven't had one for 20-plus years, we should give them almost a full year to come back
Yeah.
with their deliberations. My understanding is they're meeting for the first time, February 11th?
I believe it's a week from
Today is-
No,
17th.
to 11th,
Seven-
February 17th.
February 17th.
17th or
Yes.
23rd? 17th.
17th.
Okay. So they're meeting February 17th, and then just for the public, the first thing they have to do is set a date and time for a public hearing and provide notice thereof. But I think January 29th is a reasonable timeframe. I like it because I think that would finish everything up, even with the various processes that happen after they give us this draft report by the summertime, so that then any charter revisions could be put on the November 2027 ballot of the residents. And let me just finish. Yeah.
No, just for purposes of, is this something, if we're gonna need a motion on this, I think we should make a motion in a second and then have the discussion as opposed to the discussion before, if this is gonna require a motion.
I'll make the motion that we set the date for draft submission of the draft report as January 29th, 2027.
Second.
And my discussion is, I would like us to indicate on the record that it is this Board of Selectmen, because it will be the same Board of Selectmen that receives this, and to actually send any charter revisions to the townspeople by referendum. As I read Nick's memo of 2025, that is an option, not a requirement of the Board of Selectmen. And I want to be clear that this Board of Selectmen's intent is indeed to send any revisions to the public. This document is our town constitution, and so I think the residents should vote on it. And even if it's, changing to gender neutral, I think, there needs to be some opportunity for people to weigh in. And some of the recommendations we are asking for considerations, and others that may be brought up could be quite substantive, and I think I just would ask that. So I'm just asking the members to indicate whether then, in general terms, they are interested in sending any revisions to to a referendum.
Just to clarify,
I think go on, Steve.
you're asking, the process guided by state statute requires, if we're going to make changes, that it's voted on, approval by electors at an election.
I didn't see that in this
So
memo.
it's step 9 on the memo. And then if you refer to the chapter 99 of the state statute, it requires that happen.
Yeah,
So there
it's-
has to be a vote, and that's why we would target
It
the
will
November
go
Okay,
to the-
election.
because the way I read
public.
this, I thought that was only petitions, so petitioned items. So it's all of them,
All of
whether
them.
there's a petition or not?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate
So-
that
So
clarification.
yes, it is our intention and our requirement by state law.
Okay,
that it
thank
goes-
you.
yeah.
That makes me feel
For the
much
record,
happier.
though, Amy, I think there will be some stuff more substantive information, and yes, I agree that it should definitely go to a vote.
But I'm glad
So
you
I
brought
think
it up.
We all we all understand that.
Yeah, so that for folks watching, understanding that, the commission will make recommendations. The board, the commission will hear from the public about their interests. Ultimately, their recommendations will come to the Board of Selectmen, but then things have to be voted on by the townspeople at an election. And I think targeting the November 27 election is reasonable both in time frame and also to make sure that the most people come out for, on a regular election day. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
So we've had a motion and a second and discussion. Any further discussion on this date?
This is January 29th,
2027. Correct.
2027.
Correct.
All right, I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Hi,
Maria,
Maria?
I know she might not be available on there, but motion carries as it is. So
'Cause we're four.
because yes, there are.
I hit the wrong unmute button.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving to our next item on the agenda, the Community and Cultural Center update. We have Sandy Stein here to present to us. And while she's coming up, there's also materials in our packet, I believe.
I did there were some materials prior, and then Sandy does have, I think she has copies of this, which to hand out, but I also included Shabby. I just put a digital copy for the record future.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to provide you with an update about the Community Cultural Center. I'm going to cover a number of topics. I want to give you a little history of the project itself, the approach that was taken by the building committee, the current status of construction, and a couple of next step items. So, as many of you may recall, the fire in the firehouse, the old firehouse, occurred in 2006. That is 20 years ago. So it's taken us a while to get to the current place where we are. Takes us a long time sometimes in this town to make decisions about finally what we want to do. But the building, since the fire, has been used as storage for the fire department equipment. And no renovation or reuse of that building could really take place until another storage facility was available to the fire department. And that is now available, and that's what enabled us to really proceed with the construction and renovation. So state and federal grant dollars, in addition to insurance dollars, were secured to renovate the firehouse into the Community and Cultural Center for the town of Woodbridge. And it's really important to note that no Woodbridge tax dollars have been used for this project at all. And that'll come up again in another part of the presentation. The approach that was taken by the building committee, which is comprised of myself, Bob Tucker, and Andrea Weinstein, began back in May of 2022. That's when we started our work. And the first item on our agenda was to get input that was solicited from Human Services, the library, and Recreation about activities and programs that they would like to engage in, but that current space limited those types of activities. They shared with us lists of things that they would like to be able to do, and it included both indoor and outdoor needs. And therefore, we asked as a building committee for an expansion to our charge to include indoor and outdoor space so that we could develop a master plan for that whole area. So one of the key principles that came out of all of this input was that we needed to create flexible spaces within the Community and Cultural Center, as that type of design would basically facilitate the multiple uses that we anticipate for the center itself and all the different types of activities that will take place in that building, so that we really don't have designated spaces except for right now a recreation bay. Everything else is really fungible in terms of how the space can be used, by whom, movable furniture, all of those aspects of being able to respond to what the needs of the community are today, which may change tomorrow or in 5 years from now, but that flexibility is there. And our architect, Silver Petrocelli, and our landscape designer, Eris Land Studio, worked with all of these suggested uses of the indoor and outdoor spaces to create their designs and create that flexible space functionality for the building and the exterior spaces. And all of these plans were then presented to the town department heads, to the public, to the Board of Selectmen, and to CUPOP. And many of the suggestions that were made were incorporated into the revised plans. So construction on the renovation project began in May of 2025, and I'm happy to tell you it's nearly complete. Tomlinson Hawley Patterson, or THP, from Trumbull, Connecticut, is our contractor, and Dwight Rowland graciously agreed to oversee the construction as the town's representative, which has been extremely helpful to us in terms of building projects. So we actually have a walkthrough scheduled tomorrow to assess the progress and to begin to create a punch list. And then we will have another walkthrough in another 2 weeks. We anticipate that the completion of the interior of the building, including the installation of an elevator to get to the second floor, will be completed by mid-March. The exterior pathways, the entryway, the drop-off area, and the patio area will need to be completed once the outside temperatures are warm enough to allow for installation of those walkways. Hopefully that will be sometime in April, and access to the building then is not safe until these pathways are created. So even though the interior construction may be done, we don't really have access into the building for the public. So at this point, we would like to plan to open the Community and Cultural Center in May of this year. So yes, that will be quite an accomplishment. But there are a few next steps that have to happen before that. So the first thing is our budget, and we are working on the final reconciliation of that budget for the project. And Tony gave me updated numbers today that we have $53,000 remaining in contingency. Now, all of the construction dollars are already committed. We're not sure what will come up in the last components of the project, so we're not necessarily counting on having that money. If we do, that would be great, or even some portion of it. We feel very strongly that the building needs to be furnished when it opens. It cannot open as just vacant open space. And as a building committee, we've been working with a quality used furniture dealer in Holyoke, Massachusetts. And we've identified a good number of quality items, and we're going to be making a field trip up there to see and sit on the furniture to make sure that it's comfortable and it meets our expectations. We know that we will also need to source some additional furniture from other vendors, so we won't be able to work solely with that one vendor. We anticipate needing a one-time budget of $50,000 to $75,000 to be able to do this adequately. There is a cafe, there is a lounge exhibit area, there is conference room space, there is a reception desk area, there's a sign that needs to be put on the building, and we feel that used furniture is the way to go. It is much less expensive, but the quantity of what we need to make this work results in that type of expenditure. Our recommendation is that come from the current operating budget of this year. It's a one-time expenditure. It's nothing that reoccurs. But that to open the building and not have it be furnished, I think sends the wrong message to the public.
May I just ask some
Sure,
clarifying
go ahead.
questions?
Yeah.
So, 53,000 remaining in contingency.
Mhm.
The word remaining to me indicated that you were given some contingency funds already, and that's what remains, or this is just
So when we put the
Project
project together,
yeah
we created a contingency.
for this project?
Because
Correct,
of
as part of the
construction.
grant.
So,
Right, it's
so
part of construction, right?
okay, so just so some money, some taxpayer dollars have been used.
No,
Not our regular contingency, it's
No.
the project's contingency.
Okay, from the
Correct.
grant.
Right, correct.
From
Thank
the
you.
grant.
That is great. And then, so the 50 to 70 you're anticipating needing for one time is in addition to that 53,000 remaining
No.
in the grant
If
contingency.
if we end up with $50,000 left in the contingency that's not spent,
Yes.
that money could be used for that purpose.
Okay.
But I just want to make you aware of
If
what we
it-
think we will need to furnish the
And
building.
then when
I'd
you,
like to make a clarifying point on that. So we used to have a furniture and fixtures budget,
okay,
but due to the age of the building and the number of surprises that we encountered during the construction,
Yes.
we sort of
Had to
transferred that to contingency. And so I think we've dealt with most of them, so
Yes.
hopeful.
so when you say for that potential 50 to 70,000 to come from
Right.
the current budget, is that fiscal year 20?
26 is what you're
Yes.
thinking.
And,
26.
okay, so it wouldn't factor into the budgeting we're doing
not.
now?
No.
And do we have that?
We're working on it.
Can I say, it does factor in. Money
Okay.
is fungible. If you don't spend it now, you can
Sure.
spend it next year.
You're right.
So
you're right.
I'm sorry, it matters wherever it comes from, whether it's this year or not.
Good point.
Particularly when $800,000 was taken out of our fund balance to pay for this year's
Right.
budget.
Right.
Thank you.
We'll get to that later. And it
Right.
looks like
Sorry
we're going
for
to be
the-
in deficit, you've already said in the latest documents you gave us, Tony, which said we would be over $50,000 in deficit
Correct.
ourselves
Right.
for this year and have to dip into the fund balance.
Right.
Okay.
So just so you understand,
Yes.
we're not in a pretty place already.
I'm
And
not saying-
it's not even March.
Right. I'm not saying we're in a pretty place, Amy. All I'm trying to explain is kind of what we feel is necessary to open up this resource to the town.
Well, let me ask you this, have you considered doing a fundraiser?
I think that could be part of it, but again, we're the building committee, okay? So we're responsible for making sure that the construction takes place. We're not, unless we are given a charge to take over operations of that, it's not in our purview. But I feel that we have a responsibility, since we have thought about all of this, to share it with you. We're not telling you how to do it. It's really more that there is a need, and you can decide how you want to handle that need as the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you.
Okay?
Fair enough.
Okay. The other next step is actually getting together an RFP for a cafe vendor. And the cafe really is a key programmatic component for the community center. This was the most requested activity, program, function out of anything else in terms of soliciting input. And the one suggestion that we have is basically to explore if any of our local businesses in Woodbridge would be interested in operating this as an additional outpost. So again, this is a suggestion and a recommendation to you. This is an operational issue. This is not something that the building committee would necessarily take on unless we were asked to do something like this.
Can I have a couple questions.
Sure.
When you say it was the most asked for, do you have numbers of how many people asked for it?
I don't have that with me, but I can tell you in terms of all the discussions that we've had, all the presentations that we've had, that is the idea that has, gained the most support in terms of wanting that.
But didn't the library try to also, when they redid the library, they tried to have a cafe for a while? There was upstairs, there was a machine, and
Right,
it
so
didn't-
this is a totally
didn't
different.
work.
This is a totally different concept. It's really where you have freshly made coffee, tea. You can actually sell prepared food. Not that the food would be made in the cafe itself, but it really represents a place for people to come and meet each other. It's not a tiny little room, it's a whole bay. There's an event room that is attached to that. So I think this gives a totally different vibe than a small room on the second floor of the library.
Is it though flexible space, that if we don't
Sure.
find somebody who wants to do it, or it's only used by a caterer for particular events,
Sure,
that it could be used for
absolutely.
other things?
It's, every single bay is open. There's no dividing walls anywhere.
Okay.
So we can reconfigure with furniture, and that is the point of having flexible design.
I just say that because
Sure.
I think while it's a nice idea to ask local vendors, I think a local vendor might be concerned that they were robbing Peter to pay Paul. That people, instead of their coming to
Sure.
their local spot that they currently have, they'd have the same customers just going to another venue, and then they would have to staff two venues, et cetera.
I think, go ahead.
But at the same token, the proximity of this to the high school and just to the town center, make it an area where, the high school kids aren't necessarily going to drive down to the business district for a cup of coffee or a sandwich or whatever they might offer in a cafe scenario. I can also tell you that in talking to the seniors, as I do every month, that they're very excited about it in terms of having some place where they can congregate. That's not only the cafe. They do it obviously at the cafe, but they're looking for someplace else where they can also carry on different types of social activities, etc. So help me understand what your big concerns are here. Is just the dollars, because obviously we're trying to limit the dollars to specifically to the grant dollars that we've been offered. I see no value in opening or completing a building in heating a building and maintaining a building with no furniture. So it's something, however we do it, and we can certainly get creative and figure out different ways to do it, but however we do it, it seems as if we need to have furniture in the building in order for it to be effective for anything. And this is something that has been planned. The building has been empty. It's been a garage for 20 years, despite being one of the most visible historic buildings in our center. And we've taken the opportunity with the state money to make it into something that we feel can become a complete asset to the town. Folks have responded to this well. There has been community outreach in regards to this. So the concerns about budget are all legitimate concerns, and I can assure you no one has more concern over the budget than I do. But at the same token, to have a building that we're not using for any other purpose because it's not functional in terms of how it's completed doesn't really bring any value from my perspective. So,
Well, I would just suggest, I think we have a track record of failure when it comes to cafes. I think we even have the folks who used to come once a week, I can't remember their name, who came.
Cafe Rebelde.
Yeah, that didn't work. I would
Oh,
ask
I
that you
don't-
also.
I don't-
No,
I
that
don't think
worked.
that's true.
They just
They moved out of
but
town.
please keep in mind that, as Sandy said, this is flexible. So, for example, if a family wants to have a birthday party there, this allows them the facilities to be able to bring in some food and actually serve cake or do whatever they want, and it has some facilities there that gives them that capability. So it's not necessarily only for and can only be used by, if we can find a vendor who's willing to go there and make, and Amy, believe me, I was a member of JCC for decades. And they've had a cafe, and I've seen them go through their gyrations with having vendors there as well. So I understand your concern. We're not looking to, we're looking to identify the appropriate and the best use for it. If somebody's willing to give that a shot and see if they can make it work, and it's not costing the town the dollars in order to make that happen, and it provides a service to our residents, I think it's worth looking at. Just to consider and to at least explore.
So I would just suggest that you broaden that out to potentially asking Amity, since you mentioned Amity students, they have a culinary group.
Sure.
Maybe they would use it, and that would be something that would be a win-win for the students. Sure. And allow some intergenerational mingling at the same time. I just think that the private sector may not be the right answer here.
That may be
but
very
it can't
true.
be
We're just-
subsidized by the public sector unless it's
And I
by.
think that what we're just saying is that let's go to our local businesses first. If there's no interest there, then we look elsewhere.
And maybe our EDC can facilitate conversations.
That's a great thought.
And just on that, is this accommodating to a drive-through? Probably not,
No,
right? Or,
not at
or
all.
a pull-up window?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You have to mingle.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, but it does, it does provide a
some outdoor
place.
space for the better weather.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and sometimes with outdoor
There-
space, you do want to
Right, there is a patio,
cup of
there's
coffee,
a
to be able
patio
to step
off of-
outside and socialize with people from that perspective.
Right.
So,
And there is a patio, and if we have a furniture budget, there will be places for people to sit outside.
And we might be able to phase in furniture, like identify, I mean, this is something I guess for the board. Mika, is the intention for us to have this on the agenda in future meetings to kind of discuss our intentions and next steps?
building, go on, I'm sorry.
No, that was my question.
The building committee has a budget. If we have to go over the budget, any money we use has to come through the board.
Okay.
So if we require additional dollars in order to do what to do the things that are necessary, it has to come through the board.
Okay.
So again, I'm really
That's
just
funding.
providing
Providing
you
what the
Correct me if I'm
needs
wrong.
are.
No,
with
you're
an
correct.
update of our current thinking and just suggested ideas. Okay, it's not anything that we as the building committee are going to implement, but we have given a lot of thought to this, so.
That's evident and appreciated.
And the next part is operational oversight, okay, of the Community and Cultural Center. And that really involves management of the programs, events, and the building itself. And from our committee's perspective, and you've heard me say this multiple times, the Community and Cultural Center will serve the community best if there's someone who is responsible for oversight, coordination, and arrangement of the activities that can then enrich the lives of Woodbridge residents. It is not just a building that will sit there where you're going to reserve rooms for meetings. That's not really the purpose. So to create the experience of community for new residents, our youth, our parents, young parents, our longtime residents, we need to invest in a person who knows how to create intergenerational experiences, open mic nights, poetry slams, board game nights, coordinate activities across our existing departments, and create the opportunities, really, to belong, okay, to interact, to meet someone for coffee, to come together to play with your kids and your neighbors, to have after-school gaming and other recreational opportunities for kids and adults, and also to be the focal point for town-wide events. The list of exciting opportunities is really endless, but we must have a person who will create and lead these initiatives. Grants have provided us the opportunity to renovate the space. It's now our responsibility as the town to make this space come alive as an inclusive and engaging place for town residents to connect with each other and create community. How you decide who will do that, again, where that position comes from, where the dollars come from is really up to you as the leaders of the town. But we feel this is an essential component to make this work and to really be able to create something for the town that has actually never existed here before, a place for everybody to come together. And again, it's designed in a way to create the flexibility for use, but we need someone who will organize and orchestrate this for people.
So Sandy, I appreciate very much the work you do, but I don't think it's true that we've never had a place where people can get together. We have the center building, we have the library. People have been getting together in various ways in this town without the cultural center. It may be added amenity, but it's not that we haven't had any way to get together.
And I don't disagree with you from that perspective, but I think in
All of
terms
Beecher.
right, in terms of having a place where larger groups of people can congregate, of having someone who will really orchestrate town-wide events, welcome new members to our community, we haven't had a central focus for that. And I think that this presents the opportunity to create something new for the town. So, and the library does a fantastic job. Beecher does a great job. But it's bringing all of that together.
have you considered like, and probably this is outside of the scope of your work, so Mika, perhaps this question is better directed to you, but have we considered fees for use akin to what Human Services does perhaps, or our rec department? Maybe not, I don't know if we envision this facility being used by out-of-towners. Certainly, I'm sure the vision is for residents for this to be, you know, a tax-paid service. But to help just cover some, like, to sustain the long-term operational costs.
I
mean,
do
for like a
actually
rental.
think that
Yeah, or a rental fee for
there
private
are
events.
opportunities to generate revenue.
Yeah.
There are.
I would hope that those are explored sooner rather than later in light of the budget, you know, situation we
Right.
find ourselves
But
in.
I think that you have to have someone who knows and has the experience of how to do this.
Yeah.
And that, I will tell you, when talking to some of the students at the high school, they want it to be for multiple towns.
Yeah.
Because they interact
With multiple towns.
with multiple towns.
That
So
makes
the question is, how do we structure this in a way that we can do that, but that we can also cover some of our costs in terms of operating the building, but also paying for personnel.
And I'd imagine we have personnel, whether it be with the library or Human Services or I don't know, that have some of these skills that can be.
I don't know if I agree with that,
Okay.
Andrea. And I
Okay.
think that that's why we're making this point. I think that creating the experience of community, having intergenerational activities, really attending to many things that don't actually occur in the town right now, we need someone who has some experience doing that.
Okay.
And I think that's important. We operate a lot in silos. And this is to cross over those silos. And I think when we do that, we will all benefit. So,
I think,
and
though,
again,
I mean, the volunteer committees have done a tremendous job in that regard, whether it's the
Well,
DEI committee or whether it's 06525 day or whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, there's been a lot of engagement.
but I will tell you that those groups are also looking for the town to take over. They've already demonstrated that these are activities that people really want and that they work really hard at. And they would like the town to take some directive and initiative ongoing to actually plan these. They will help as volunteers, but right now, it all falls on them. We've talked to
The
these groups.
key is not to end up with a building that's not used. We have this building, we got a $2 million grant a while ago, and to do something with this building, we've now done it. So the key is not to let it just sit there.
Right.
And in order to do that, we need some attention to it, that we can get creative and leverage, do exactly what you're saying, Amy, do exactly what you're saying. But utilize volunteers as often and as much as we possibly can, but have somebody coordinating those efforts from the town who can make sure that things are happening and can take the necessary measures to make things happen, to create new opportunities and new potential for the space.
If our
And
grant,
yes, to your point, Andrea, yes, I don't think necessarily it benefits us to hire someone. You know, initially we were looking for a different person, but we may be able to overlap some responsibilities, and I'll get into that a little bit in terms of what we're going to talk about next.
So just to wrap us up, I don't know, if do you have much more?
I just have
Okay.
one more thing I'd like
Yes,
to
please.
say. So we also want to suggest the creation of an advisory council so that town residents have a vehicle to share their ideas and expertise, and perhaps create a volunteer program that would help staff the Community and Cultural Center so it can be open more hours, take responsibility for programs. So I think there is a way to involve people in this that is not a cost to us, but really engages them.
We have an existing community council.
It's on hiatus.
Yeah.
It's been on hiatus for quite a number of
That,
years.
that could be a
so-
vehicle to,
Yes.
you know,
Absolutely.
bring in input and discuss these things just as you suggested, as opposed to creating something new specific. It could be relevant.
Absolutely.
Um,
Okay.
Anything
I know
else?
I know we've gone over here, so.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, obviously we'll talk about this some more, and it
Right.
sounds like for Mika, this might blend into our next activities. But Sandy, thank you so much, and thank you to the rest of the committee, Bob and Andrea, on this,
And Dwight.
and Dwight and Dwight as well, and everyone who's been working and planning on this throughout town. It's a big effort. So, okay, thank you. Our next item. Town Hall Administrative Offices reorganization. Mika, I'm going to pass this to you.
I appreciate it, Steve. Give me a second.
Are you trying to share your screen?
I am sharing. I should be sharing at this
Oh.
point.
It's coming up
It
now.
worked.
There it is. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was convinced
There
I
and
was
there.
gonna have to hit some button for this to be able to go through. Okay, perfect.
Oh, it should be. I got it. Thank you. Anyway, Tony and I have been talking about, and I've been talking to a number of folks. As we all know, throughout the years, as we've hit harder and harder budgets, we generally look at ways in which we can reduce our expenses, and very oftentimes it's through, we've been using attrition has been a very significant tool we've been using. So when somebody retires, we try to overlap positions or try to overlap responsibilities and things of that nature. And through that, we've done what I think everyone here is very much aware of is, Town Hall has our budget has grown in to a significantly less degree than even inflation, let alone our education budgets. At some point in time, you do get to a point of diminishing returns, and you have to kind of take a look at where you are, particularly as there are changes, and see where you actually want to go. So to kind of give you an idea as to where we are right now, what we're doing is we're looking at what I call Town Hall administration. This doesn't include the departments specifically, like tax collector, the assessor, and things of that nature, but it's more the administrative portion of what we do in town. And these are generally the people who are involved in what we're doing from a finance, from an operations, and from a strategic standpoint in town. And right now, Tony has the responsibility not only for finance, but also which includes accounting and accounts payable and things of that nature, but also he's also responsible from an operations standpoint for all of the department heads. And that decision was made many years ago when our then administrative officer retired, and we felt that Tony could assume that role. And candidly, he's done an exemplary job of that, considering what's involved in it. But as I said, it's really kind of grown into something significantly more than it was back at the time that we made that decision. Additionally, time has passed. Tony is at a point where he can make decisions as relates to what he wants to do from a retirement standpoint. So it's something that we need to consider, because if we lose Tony, we lose both an administrative officer and a finance director. In talking to people in other towns and in talking to people who recruit these types of positions, it's very clear that you're not going to get somebody who's going to do both. At what we're talking, in the way that we have with Tony. Not only that person has to learn. That person has to learn 2 jobs, etc. So we've been talking for a while about the fact that we really have to move from this model to something where we have an administrative officer and a finance director as separate positions and separate people. So as I say, in our conversations, Tony's been extraordinarily gracious in assuring us that he would give us the time and the opportunity to make the changes we need. And we're at a point now where we're ready to look at that. So I just wanted, and you may have already taken a look at this, but in case you didn't, this just gives you some of the current challenges we're having. The operational overlapping responsibilities really take a toll in regards to what you can and can't do on a regular basis. If you're working on an operations issue, you're not working on a finance situation. And from a day-to-day standpoint, that changes. or it's impacted from a day-to-day standpoint, but it's more importantly, it's severely impacted in terms of a strategic standpoint, because what you end up doing is spending most of your time on the day-to-day operation and not taking enough time to plan and to strategically identify what needs to be done, or options that can be introduced to improve or enhance the situation that we have here in town. So that's a challenge that we're experiencing, we have experienced for the last couple of years, and one that, as I said, we've been talking about ways in which we can do that. Additionally, just from a included in the operational role is HR, is IT. There's certain areas where things require specialized types of knowledge and experience, and although we're able to have gotten much of this done, we haven't done it to the degree that many other towns do it, and maybe to the degree that we need to do it going forward. Things have changed. The state has required more. The state has, passed mandates. The state requires much more administration related to grants than in the past. Tony warned me early on, because I wanted to go after every grant that we possibly could get. And Tony reminded me that you have to have the resources in order not only to apply, but also to manage the grant administratively, because there's reports that need to be done, and some of them are ridiculously long and arduous. So to that end, this just kind of gives you an idea as to why we're looking to move from the model that you just saw a moment ago to this model. What I should have done prior to getting here is I should have made a note of what we're talking about is in the budget here that I'm referring to are for the three positions that are highlighted in the asterisk: the administrative officer, finance director, the current executive assistant, and the assistant administrative officer. Those three job titles, the budget for that is approximately $505,800. So obviously, anything we do, we look at and we look toward with the budget in mind. So we identified a number of different options. Tony spoke on. Tony was, as I said, very, very good about identifying what his plans and what his opportunities were. And in doing that, we were able to identify some opportunity to move to a new model that will not cost us significantly more as it would if we just literally hired a finance director. If we just hired an administrative officer. So in this new model, which is about $20,000 more than the current salary, we actually end up having a part-time finance director in Tony. This is critical because obviously Tony knows our systems, and he's probably one of the few who can perform that function on a part-time basis. One of the things that we're what we're behind on is administrative activities, whether it's filing minutes, whether it's contract filing, just truly administrative, clerical type things. Allison, as my executive assistant, does significantly more than, for example, what Gary Shaw did from an administrative standpoint. She took care of everything administratively. And so it would help our department as a whole, it would help the town hall as a whole, if we had an additional resource who was an administrative person who could help myself, finance director, and the admin officer in terms of things that needed to be administratively taken care of. They would function much like what we're familiar with in terms of how Jerry Shaw functioned from an administrative standpoint. They would be the ones that individual would be the person, for example, to clerk for the Board of Selectmen and to function as the support for our board. Obviously, we would need a new administrative officer, and although I have this as executive assistant because that's the role that everybody understands, this role would actually kind of morph, and it would include, for example, rather than hiring somebody new or bringing out an additional resource for what we were talking about before, this role, Allison spends a considerable amount of her time on projects, in coordination, planning. Amy, you mentioned 06525. That was Allison doing it with some volunteers from the high school completely. And also, just in terms of functions that we've been having challenges in terms of reservation of space and how we coordinate that and what we do with the space that we have and how we maximize the use and or maximize the potential revenue we can develop from the use. So that's something that she's currently doing. And she would add, and she's also, for example, her and Tony do all the communication. Allison takes care of a lot of the things that we do, the coordination and the management of our website and things of that nature. That would be, again, functions that she would continue to do. What she would not do is the administrative aspect of what she's doing now, which is what would be done by the administrative assistant. The assistant administrative officer is retiring. So, Karen, thank you. So we would be looking for obviously a new hire from that perspective. We would also, because Tony's on a part-time basis, we would increase somewhat the role of one of the individuals who is in that department, so as to be able to function and take on the additional responsibilities with Tony being on a part-time basis. And I also added on here, and the amount here, believe it or not, is a little bit more than what the difference is in terms of the budget, the current budget from what this is proposing. So that would be, we earmarked $25,000 for a specific economic development manager, somebody who specifically addresses economic development. And that's optional. That's something that I think we can benefit from, but certainly it's not something that we have, nor is it something that we necessarily have to go forward with, but I did want to add that. So as to, particularly since it really kind of keeps us in the range of where we are right now. So, in essence, where there were the payroll that we had for 3 individuals and 3 job titles is now, we can now afford 7, or about $20,000 more. So it would help. Now, keeping in mind that we have been, through attrition, through different means, we have been reducing the staff for quite some time. And we're at a point during that time, demand and complexity has increased. So it becomes very important to kind of look at this, particularly from an operational standpoint, because what you're looking at is right now you've got Tony for operations, you've got Tony for finance, and you've got Tony and Mika for strategic. Of course I help with finance, of course I help with operations, but that's what we do, and we do it more on a day-to-day basis, and we're not doing enough planning, and we're not doing enough strategic looking in terms of what the town's doing. And this would allow us to do more of that. Those are the important elements. You have to have somebody who's focused. And perfect example, just to kind of create a scenario. When we had the issue with the asbestos over at the center building, that absorbed our time for a significant period. And what I mean by that was constant phone calls, it was constant meetings, etc. And that was the 2 of us, which meant that if there were financial things that needed to happen, they weren't happening during that time. Where if you have an operations, if the administrative officer is your operating, excuse me, the administration officer is your operations person, that person focuses on it, allowing our finance and our strategic to still move forward.
So,
Now, the reporting structure.
Mika, can I interrupt?
I don't know if you have any question on that.
Well, just to note, I mean, I think it's clear there's a capacity issue, and as I recall, not last year, but maybe the year prior, Tony, you had shared a slide that sort of showed the attrition over the 2010s,
Right.
about how staff has condensed over the years, and clearly, as you've laid out, Mika, there's a real capacity issue and the issue of diminishing returns on here. I'm not sure how much farther you want to go tonight. Obviously, this has budget implications, and I think you're meaning to prepare us for
So
next
that's a
week.
good point, Steve. If you guys will indulge me, I just wanted to take you through this because this is really, as much a budget topic as it is about anything else. So I just wanted to take you through it, and these are just some of the benefits that we realize as a result of that, and obviously they speak to some of the things I said were lacking and or a challenge previously. I did actually miss one. I'm sorry. This just gives you a sense for the difference of operational and financial or fiscal. So that an individual can focus on operations and an individual can focus on financial, which we haven't been able to do for quite some time. And as I say, there was a time where we didn't necessarily, it worked really well. But at this point in time, with what's changed and what's been happening and what we need to get done, I think we need to look at making some changes. So, next steps and what we really need to consider as far as this is concerned is, to proceed where, I neglected to mention a very important element of this. I think you had in your packet RPIP information, RPIP. We have an opportunity. Tony identified a location where they have an interest in his services on a part-time basis as well. In speaking with the town manager in that town, their COG, their Council of Government, offers grants through RPIP, whereas ours is doing it for cybersecurity, theirs is doing it for shared resources. So we have gone to their CROG, this is a Capital Region Council of Governments, and we floated this past them, and they've indicated that they would support a 3-year grant to pay 50% of the cost for finance director if we share it. So that's one of the reasons that the number 524.5 is as low as it is. And it would be for 3 years.
Is that why?
And I'll have some, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Mika. Is that why it's considered part-time then?
No, because it will be.
Yeah,
It will be
it would be working
2.5
part-time
days.
for us and part-time for someone else, correct?
And then can you just help me understand the long-term implications of that?
The way
When-
that, the,
when
yes,
Tony does
the way that the
finally
grant works
decide
is you
to-
have the opportunity to do it as a 50-50 for 3 years. And at the end of the third year, it's on you. You make up the other, you do what you need, whatever you want to do. Or you have the opportunity to do it, they'll do 75, 50, 25. So you kind of taper it down so it, by the end of 3 years, it's not as significant an implication to you. What you need to consider here is we need an administrative officer. So we need to hire an administrative officer. If we only do that, it will be in excess of $500,000 more over 3 years than if we do this, and we will be in the same situation or a better situation than we would be right now.
So,
Really important. Tony staying on as our part-time finance director also allows a transfer of knowledge to whoever we hire as the
Certainly.
admin officer.
I'm just wondering,
opposed-
Mika,
Go
by
on.
long term, I meant 3 years, let's say Tony retires. Let's say hypothetically, we take on this new organization as is. Can we only have a finance director that's part-time? No, right? We need a full-time,
Yeah.
so then
We can do-
the
we can hire-
budget,
No, we can do what we want, correct, Andrea?
but the budget, I'm just thinking long-term budget.
Right.
I don't understand, now I understand this is a creative way of addressing immediate needs, of increasing capacity and preparing, for Tony's retirement. And I really appreciate the strategy and intention behind this. I think this is important work. And I'm trying to contextualize this over the longer term, bigger picture.
Which is the right thing to do.
Thank you.
So,
So can you
to that
speak
end-
to that? Yeah.
To that end, I can tell you that doing the scenario this way saves us at the end of the term, even at the end of 3 years, saves us in excess of $500,000 over that term, over 4 years.
What term?
Because in the fourth year, that's when you're going to have to pay either for a full-time, part-time, but you're going to, things, or we keep the scenario going. If we keep the scenario going, for example, it's incrementally more, but it's not substantially more. If you hire an admin officer currently, then you start that salary today or whenever you start it, and that extends for 3 years, and you'll end up spending more than if you worked it out through this scenario. So it actually does save us money and doesn't leave us in a place where there's a cliff that you're falling off of when that time comes.
Mika,
And then the financials is something I'd like to go over, and that I will go over on Tuesday when we get together and talk about the budget.
Okay.
Because it includes salaries for potential employees, we really need to do that in executive session. because we don't want to tell people who are looking for a job here what we're willing to pay.
Understood.
Mika, along those lines, if I may, I think the only way to really evaluate that and sort of evaluate this structure is to kind of understand what these job descriptions are, what the responsibilities are of each of these people, so that we understand what value we're adding to the town with this structure. And I understand your points about, at the moment, this being a financial advantage to us to be able to get this work done in the town, and I appreciate that. But I also think, especially if this comes down to, a salary conversation, in order to know if that's even appropriate, we would need to know what's the job description under each title, and how are these people all working together, and what is the benefit that we're getting to the town? Increased communication, et cetera, all of the good things. But I think we need to know from that perspective so we understand the value that we're adding here.
Some of that material is included. We did it on a bullet basis just to try to identify, it's just to kind of visualize or just kind of give you a summary, if you will, of some of the different responsibilities that the different job titles would have. Again,
I didn't see everybody's in there though. I just saw a few key people.
It should be. It should be everybody.
I do see
Administration
it.
should be all the people who are impacted. For example, you're not going to see accounts payable or finance or me or project analysts, because those jobs aren't changing, those salaries aren't changing. You understand what I mean? So the only ones you're going to see are the ones that are actually impacted by the dollars that we're in and the impact of what we're talking about. And some of the
Right. So I understand how they impact the dollars, but I'm just trying to figure out how they're all working together, what projects and what responsibilities they all have, so that they're all bringing, that extra planning to the town. So that was just my question. How are they all interacting together? I understand if their job stays the same and the budget for that job stays the same, that's fine. I understand that, but I still want to know what that person's contributing to the team, so I can understand how these team members are working together.
And that's part of a larger initiative, for lack of a better way, Maria, in terms of that. We haven't had the opportunity and or the resources to, for example, put together job descriptions for all of these jobs or all of the jobs that we have. One of the very important elements of what we need here, and we need it more on a sooner rather than later basis, is the ability to have a recruit for the position that we're looking for the most, and that's the admin officer. That's the most important one. So it's basically a step down from a town manager type role. Also just keep things into perspective. Please take a look yourself and go online, go AI, whichever way you want. Ask about finance directors in the state of Connecticut. You'll find that there's a scarcity. You'll find that they're in high demand, and you'll find that they're paid well as a result of that. Maintaining ours is very, very important. But I understand what you're saying. What I was getting at, Maria, is one of the other things we did is we went to COG, and we went to ARCOG, we went to SCROG, then we went to CCM. We also went to COST. But they gave us names of firms who do this recruiting at this level of companies that do this. And we've identified one that Tony will be going over with a funding request that would do this. One of the things they would do as part of their job is to create job titles particularly for the, job description for an admin officer. And we'll get into that a little bit more when Tony gets into the funding request. But we also, the one that we're recommending we go with is one who gave us a flat rate. The other one would only offer it on an hourly basis with an estimate of what they feel it would take, and they only offered the estimate after we insisted that we have it, otherwise we can't do anything with it. They are an HR firm, they're called HR Consulting, and the other thing they do is HR work. So there's an opportunity for us to get more formal HR resource and function if we're looking to do that. It costs money. Yeah. And in my opinion, an economic development manager might go a little further than that, but people might feel differently about that.
Well, either way, it sounds like there's a lot of room to, start building on the processes that we already have and making them work for us today, even though what has worked in the past has worked well. I think there's an opportunity here for us to grow a little bit and change. And I would suggest that, the administrative officer also be someone who could put some systems processes in place for the town, some succession planning, some so that, the townspeople understand what the process is for communication, what the process is for certain things. And that all has, whoever is working on that team and whoever has a role in that understands what that role is clearly. So those are the types of things that when I was looking at the schematic, I was trying to understand, is if there's a process in place for, covering someone when they're out, if there's a process in place for, how a communication gets out, that those processes are put together, what is the, whose responsibility is each thing in this cascade. So I'll take a look at those job descriptions, but I had wanted to see, bullets of all of them just to understand how that works together.
Mika, I want to just pass it to Amy. I know she had a question
Yeah.
or comment.
Well, Mika, I know you're not feeling well, and I appreciate your plowing through this under those circumstances, especially as well as the effort to be creative. As I understand it, though, what we have is we have a person, Tony, who has offered extraordinary service to this town for almost 25 years and is willing, rather than just to walk out the door, work with us creatively when he could walk out the door. So I think we need to do this as a two-step process, I would suggest. We need to go forward with this grant opportunity, which, as I understand it, doesn't commit us to continue with a part-time finance director at the end of the maximum of 3 years.
Right.
But we get the benefit of the funding. And we could then spend more time during the budget process to figure out what the town can afford, what is the right composition of staffing, et cetera. But it seems to me that we could move forward with this piece. The only other piece besides the grant would be, as I understand it, the benefits coordinator is listed as additional. So that's a little something that has to be provided with Tony going part-time. So my recommendation is that we do this as a two-step. From what I can see, we promptly show our appreciation to our finance director / administrative officer and let him proceed on a part-time basis as finance director. And we make whatever adjustments we need for that with respect to the benefits coordinator by applying for this grant. I don't know if it takes some time for the grant to go through.
It does.
Too.
Takes about 6 weeks,
So
I
that
believe. So, and I believe the intent is to get the paperwork done in February, so that the should be, as I'm told, by the end of March, beginning of April is sort of the timeline.
So meanwhile, we would have, after we do our budget meeting in February 17th, we would have time as a board to talk more about the reorg, the Board of Selectmen, and add that in. Because I do agree with Maria, I do have some questions about descriptions. With respect to the new part-time finance director, I would like to see, in particular, there was something in your slide presentation, Mika, which I did look at in advance, that talked about being able to do more focused forecasting of where the town is headed financially. And I would like that to be an express responsibility of the finance director. Tony used to
I
be able
used
to
to
do
do it
that.
all the time when I was finance director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if he goes back, I think, but we should have that, to Maria's point of knowing what people's responsibilities are, we ought to add that to this list of job descriptions and roles.
I will tell you that some days, some weeks, 70% of my time is administrative, right?
Yes.
So let's,
So-
so that would be my proposal, is that we do this in two steps. We have a motion, I don't know if we can do it tonight, otherwise we can do it on the 17th.
Yeah, either is fine.
Where we have the slightly revised finance director position described. We understand what the dollars are new as we go through with that and the benefits coordinator additional amount. Then we would know what
I'm not looking
the
for a
delta
motion
is.
for us to, I think what we need to do is just collectively identify that we need to go in this direction, and that obviously with this with the opportunities that we have, both with the grant and with Tony's graciousness, that we move forward with hiring, or with the process of hiring an administrative officer. That's something that I think we need to do now. I don't understand if it's net neutral, in terms of if it's net neutral for us to improve the amount of resources that we have, knowing full well that we are not currently staffed to the degree that we should be, that why we wouldn't do it now. In other words, this is an opportunity for us to do something that could potentially save us a little if we don't do the economic development contract, development manager, would actually save us dollars, but actually produce resources that could address so many areas that we need help with right now.
Well, Mika, I
So-
appreciate you've done a lot of work, but this is the first time I've heard of the town going out to pay somebody to do a search. And $17,500 would go a long way towards some of the building department needs that we were discussing. And I just am not prepared to vote for that, nor am I prepared to endorse an org chart change of this magnitude. But what I am prepared to say is, Tony could have walked out the door completely, and then we would be really up a creek. So I think we should accommodate this February grant schedule and let this proceed, and then take some more time, and I'm happy to meet in a special meeting to discuss this further. But I just,
Again,
that's
this
why I
was
think it
meant to
needs
be
to
an
be
overview,
bifurcated.
so as to get some questions, and so as to introduce the idea, so that we can understand what additional information you might need to make a decision. The presentation was not meant for us to make a decision. However, I'm not sure what your experience is in terms of hiring an administrative officer. But again, you can do the same research. You can do the same research that I have done. You can call different companies. You can call different resources. You can go online. You can determine however you want and identify where you're going to go. You can call COG. You can call all the resources that I have reached out to and ask, where can we find an admin officer? There are 2 job openings right now for town managers, which is a job very similar to this, an administrative officer that we would be competing with. So we would be competing with other towns that would be looking for a resource. And we could lose that, not having a resource who's dedicated to finding the correct resource and actually advocating for our town in order to get this done and get us the best person as possible.
I actually question whether it is.
$17,000, well, we can get into that when we get into the funding source, and we have discussion on that. But anyway, so that's, I'll leave it at that. As I said, I'll just go on to the end. No, I can't do that.
Well, Mika,
Yes.
so just if this is our opportunity to share ideas or ask questions, and I will do that research, but based on the job description of the new admin officer, thank you. I do not see how that is akin to a town planner.
Town manager.
Town manager.
Town manager.
Okay.
Town manager,
But I'm
not a
not
town
sure
planner.
that that's
but-
what a charter contemplated when it said we should have an administrative officer.
Exactly, and a lot of towns do that. A lot of towns have a town manager.
So I will just
it's akin
say,
to a town manager,
as
just,
far as-
to make that distinction.
all right, thank you for clarifying. That was my mistake. But my point is that, given Amy's point that I value and agree with, I don't think it's financially responsible for us to pursue a contractor, a recruiter for this position, at least at first. I understand your sense of urgency, and you and your staff at Town Hall know better than I about the capacity limitations. But we have survived, though perhaps not as well as we would like, without this role, and perhaps it could be considered to use modern technology and channels that exist to advertise this position absent of a recruiter, and if that fails, then we can address that potential. Just throwing that out there for your consideration when we talk about it. Other quick points I'd like to make is I think while we're addressing this reorganization, it's an opportunity to explore the potential of establishing new and potentially overdue protocols for like having routine performance appraisals, for having probationary hiring on probationary periods.
Who's gonna do that? When? That's exactly my
It
point.
would be added
We
to
don't
the,
have the
excuse me,
opportunity
Mika,
to do those
Mika,
things.
excuse
We
me.
don't have the resources to do those things. We don't have necessarily the expertise to do those things.
So Mika, I
So
think
I don't think you're
Morgan, absolutely
understanding or
right.
hearing me,
Believe
Mika, and I would
you've been part of the
appreciate it if
personnel
you
committee.
would.
You've expressed very clearly how you feel these things are very important, which is one of the reasons we're going about it in the way that we are. You know, so please,
Yeah.
if you feel that that's potential that we have, you're gonna have to help me out in understanding how and who.
I
Because
think
we've had years in which to try to make that happen, and it hasn't.
I
Because
think-
of the day-to-day
okay,
operations
Mika,
and
please.
because of the fact that we keep cutting our force.
I am simply saying, in this new structure, this is our opportunity to integrate those with this increased capacity, to address those shortcomings as I identify them to be. So adding to the job description of that new admin officer to conduct routine performance appraisals. I think this is an opportunity for all new hires to have a probationary period, especially if we forego the recruiter route. This is standard operating protocols for state public servants, is everyone's hired on a 6-month probationary period. They need to go through a performance appraisal to step out of it. It can be
I
extended.
think we're doing that. I don't know if it's 90 days, Tony, or 6 months, but yes, I understand.
So,
and that's-
it's just a
that's-
thought, we don't
I
have to
agree,
spend
yeah.
any more time.
That's current policy.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got a lot to talk about, and it seems like our meeting next week for the budget meeting, we will be able to address this further. It sounds like we don't need a particular action tonight, though I want to make sure, with regards to the FPIP grant, that it sounds like we're at least expressing general support for the idea, and of course great appreciation for Tony's work over the years, that this is something we would want to pursue, so that you can be thoughtful.
The only
about
thing I'm not sure of is there some sort of support resolution required at some point from the board? That I'm not sure of.
There is.
There is, okay, so at some point you'll
There
have
is.
to do that.
So maybe we can have that
It's
for
not
next
support
week.
Next week.
resolution. For the grant, for you to accept the grant, you need a resolution from your governing body that indicates you understand that it's a 50% grant and you're making up 50% of
Right,
it, and you
right.
also understand that it ends in 3 years, and you're gonna, you do what you're gonna do at the end of 3 years.
So perhaps we could have that available
require-
for next week to look at as part of our.
And I'll tell you, the only other item is, at some point, there'll be some sort of interlocal agreement between the two towns, sort of identifying the relationship, so that everyone's on sort of the same page.
Yeah,
Understood.
Yeah,
yeah, so I would like to make clear, I think 50-50-50 is the best structure, rather than,
I can make that clear,
yeah.
yeah.
But
If that's
I
what the
think,
board
yeah,
thinks.
Yeah, we-
yeah. rather
Yeah,
than
we've agreed, I know Tony, I know I feel that way. I know that the other town, would prefer the 75, 50, 25, but in talking to the leader there, I think there's some room for them to come to our way of thinking.
I think so too, yeah.
So what I would suggest
But I
is,
agree.
if we can, for Tony's sake, and so that we can at least start to move forward, if we can do whatever we need to do on the 17th, I would appreciate if we did that.
Okay.
And Tony, that would include, I would like to find it, your new job description to
Yes.
include the forecasting.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's understand that that's your responsibility.
Okay.
A step toward Maria's and Andrea's effort for clarity, so that we have that. And
also the piece about the,
yeah, this was a little nit, but I'm sorry, I was a corporate lawyer, that it mentioned bonding, but it didn't mention
Right.
responsibility for actually make sure the debt gets paid.
Right.
So,
Put that in
yeah,
there.
throw that in there too. Timely payment of debt.
and then lastly, if we can also resolve the issue with the other person in my office.
Yes, I think that has to be dealt with on the
Yep.
17th also, because that's part of the
Part of the
package for
package,
you,
yeah.
so you
Yeah.
have to.
Good.
But that would be contingent on getting the grant, right, or no?
this
All
whole,
of this is contingent
Oh, yeah.
on
Is
getting
all
the
of this
grant.
contingent on getting the grant? That's what I'm saying, or no?
The numbers all change if we don't.
If-
So
the only
it's,
difference is the numbers change.
What's being
Yeah,
proposed right
because you're
now
gonna
is
do
based
this
on the grant.
anyway.
correct.
Right, he's gonna do this anyway, and we need to have somebody help supplement if he's part-time, so we could move forward with that too.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to have somebody supplement, which could provide us an opportunity to cover resources that we are currently lacking.
Okay, no, I'm just talking about, what, never mind, it's okay. All right,
Okay.
so we'll take this up
Good.
then.
Yep.
Does that work, Tony?
Thank you.
Yep. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we're all set with this topic, we can move on to the next. Which is our Administrative Officer, Director of Finance
Okay, just give me a second,
report.
pull that
Yep, we'll give you a moment here.
Okay, so I have the monthly report through January 2026, and this year we've had a number of challenges that have come our way, and the result is a little bit of a deficit, over and above the $800,000 from our contribution from fund balance. I'm hopeful, and some projections are somewhat conservative, and I do not have in here any returned funds from the Woodbridge Board of Education, so hopeful that that changes and that we actually go into the plus, but this is where we are currently. I will tell you that under charge for services, there's a shortfall of $160,000, mainly from a few areas. Lost income from the Child Center, which is $68,000. $75,000 in transfer station fees due because we did not enact the increase that we thought we would when we started the budget process. And there's so far a small deficit projected in recreation fees and senior fees. We did have some good luck with the Woodbridge Board of Education receiving $70,000 from a New Haven, City of New Haven payment, which we will book to other revenues, and $10,000 from tuition revenue from BOE staff. On the expenditure side, there are a number of challenges which I brought to your attention. The first is the electricity, which we discussed. And for the gym with the addition of air conditioning. Due to the cold weather, there are several of our natural gas accounts, as you could probably imagine, and I'm sure you're all experiencing.
Can I interrupt you
Sure.
really quickly?
Yeah.
There's also a note on the cultural center, and I've just noticed driving by, those lights are on
Right.
inside.
Someone else mentioned that to me, and I
24/7.
put a note into that for that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so that can be addressed.
Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know if there's like a requirement for safety because it's under
I'm not.
construction.
That's a good question. I'm not sure of the
Okay.
answer.
Oh, well, and actually, if I could, I actually on a holiday called dispatch because there was a window wide open in the library.
There are two
after
open
hours.
tonight.
Yeah.
In our library.
Yeah, there's
they
two open
routinely
tonight.
open the upstairs windows and leave them open.
Okay.
Routinely. And
I mean, I just noticed it driving
At-
into the
again-
And
meeting.
I called because it was gonna go down to 0 and I was worried about frozen pipes, so I called dispatch.
I don't know
and
this
asked
for
them
sure,
to
but
do it.
the guess is that it gets so hot up there that they open the windows and then they forget to close them.
Exactly.
So, but
Since you are still responsible
I will
for
take care.
coordinating the department heads, if you would please make it somebody's responsibility to close the windows.
especially this winter,
Yeah.
pipes are freezing
Yes.
left and
I mean,
right.
I felt kind of silly
almost
calling
wanted to
dispatch,
go in there and, like,
but
shut
it
the
was gonna
windows.
be a
Yeah.
long weekend. Yeah.
Okay. I will take care of that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are going to have some shortfalls in natural gas, I would anticipate.
Yeah.
The police we have the expired contract, which we finally initiated. We had some retroactive pay and adjusted wages. It's about $300,000, although they're trending much better with their overtime since they've hired 2 new officers. So that may actually go down. I'm hopeful. The Public Works Department has an overtime issue, as you can imagine, $71,000 deficit as of January. And we have earmarked funds in their budget to cover the overtime issue. I'm hopeful. mainly from some positions, some injuries, some workers' comp injuries and other things that allowed us to have surplus funds in some of their salary lines. And in addition to sort of putting maybe just some work, putting off until that's maybe done in the spring, till the following year, to save us some money. And so the combination of that, maybe a little bit of contingency required depending on the rest of the year. But I'm hopeful that most of that can come from the department.
But what kind of work would be delayed?
It would be like some of minor road work or
But that
stuff.
was, then we'd have to pay for it in the new budget.
Right, but we could alter the amount that we do so that it could be a little less. You follow?
Yeah, except I don't want to skimp on road maintenance. It comes back to bite you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
We've got some opportunity there that we could take advantage of. But most of it's from the salary line.
okay.
The salt supplies, there's a transfer request this month's agenda. That's from salary also.
Okay.
So I'm not sure the rest of the salt, but we shall see. Hopefully that covers us. There was a shortage. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Salt itself? Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Tony, is there an acting public works director?
So the foreman is currently acting as public works
So who
director.
is
Adam
that?
Parsons.
Adam Parsons.
Yeah.
So I actually have a budget suggestion, which is that we look at creating a part-time public works director. I believe we do not need a full-time public works director. So I hope that we will discuss that.
That's a good thought. Maybe there's RPIP funds for it.
Well, but there may also be, I just think there could be somebody who's retired or retiring. It's,
Could work.
I
Yeah,
think
could look worth looking into.
I think the amount of work is actually there, could be done on a part-time basis, which might save us benefits as well as salary.
Mhm.
And you could get somebody for, as I said, for a few years who's finished with one town, wants to still be engaged, but not be on a full-time schedule.
Not to get too off the agenda, but can you have a part-time director oversee full-time staff? I guess you would be doing
Yeah,
that.
I would be doing it.
Well, you
Okay,
got the foreman,
yeah.
too.
So the
Public Works Director does,
foreman might take on more
Budget
responsibility.
and office work and
yeah,
Stuff like that.
it's different. We'll look at the job description
Okay.
and consider that, please.
There are different opportunities. It's certainly not the same as, for example, an admin officer or the admin officer in terms of, in talking to the folks we talk to, that's a job you can go out and find. The admin officer, they did not seem to be the case, but yes, that's, all those options are certainly options that are available to us.
there's a late addition to this, which I had the fire chief, send a memo on, was just today, I think we received it, and he had some equipment failures due to the cold weather. So, that's another challenge that we have facing us.
I don't think it was listed in the correspondence.
That was
Yes,
an email.
we
but
got
I
the
can read
email.
it.
Yeah, it was the email today, yes.
But I
was
didn't
to
We're
read
still
make
working on the full impact of that.
Yes.
And next month, we should have more information. So as you can see, there's a number of challenges this year that we are facing.
Is it in the building or the equipment?
It's in the bay. One of the pieces of equipment we lost heat in the bay, in the
In the floor?
floor here.
Why can't I find that email?
I don't know exactly the technical.
Radiant heat.
Right, but I'm not sure technically what piece of equipment.
Yes, that's all right. He was
Yeah.
warning us about that,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Remember, he was showing us
was.
the
Yeah.
concrete?
Right,
Okay.
right. So as you can see, there's a number of financial challenges this year that we're keeping track of.
Okay.
So.
And we've got funding requests.
Yes.
I just wonder with what public comment was shared earlier, if for issues like at the firehouse or some
So
of
you
these
mean about the
boilers,
on-bill
like-
financing?
Yeah.
So we did on-bill financing a while back for lights, because there's the ratio of the savings versus the cost
Yeah.
was almost neutral. So there was no impact on your bill. Some of the items that we've identified so far are such a long payback period. They're not, we've been told so far, Amika was part of this conversation, that we didn't really identify anything yet, Mika, correct? That would be on-bill financing eligible, right?
Yeah, as was mentioned in public comment, we've been working with UI and some other companies in regards to this, and right now UI is indicating that the mechanicals with the high cost of putting in like a new boiler, a complete new system, which is much of what we need. As Tony said, the payback period isn't enough for them to offer the zero rate, the zero interest opportunity to us. That's what they're saying so far. So with the study that we're undergoing, we should learn more and be in a better position to see what we can take advantage of and what we can't.
Okay.
But it is something that
Yeah.
obviously we're trying to leverage and take advantage of.
We're going to do the audit she mentioned.
Yeah.
And hopefully other things will come up that
Okay.
would be eligible.
And then
Yeah.
maybe use that 20% opportunity for projects that fall outside of
Right,
that.
right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for your attention to that.
Okay, the first funding line item transfer, this is 2526-10, and this is for $24,000. And this was alluded to a little bit during the budget discussion, but this is for the new general permit for stormwater associated with industrial activity. And we've engaged the services of AEI, who also does other activities for us. And so that's the cost for that for the coming year.
And just to be clear, this is federally mandated.
Not the state DEP.
No, but it's under the Clean Water Act.
Ah, right.
So it's the feds. We just have to administrate it, at DEEP.
Gotcha.
But it is a state requirement, so. I had turned it, so how do I return it?
There's the button. So I'll make the motion that we approve the line item transfer for $24,000 for this item. Can I have this? Mika seconded. I was giving you a moment, so
So I apologize.
Yes,
I
that's
turned
flip.
things over and now I can't get them back because thank you very much.
We have,
I'm very handicapped.
Mika.
Second. Well,
Yeah,
he's there.
yeah.
I know you're pointing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, first second. Perfect.
Yes. Any more discussion on this item? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, the second item is 2526-11. This is for $55,000. This is to address the for our sand and salt account. This is where I was telling you is coming from salary lines, including the highway salaries and partly from the Director of Public Works salary, simply because we'll have a vacancy there. And that'll cover our shortage in our sand and salt, mostly salt account for this winter season, hopefully, unless we have a rash of storms in March, but hopefully we won't. There was a little shortage of salt this year, if you read or heard about that, but we actually had to go down to the Gateway Terminal and wait in line for salt. We weren't getting deliveries. No towns around here were getting deliveries. So thankfully we were able to have just enough.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the line item transfer, $55,000 for the salt and sand account.
2611?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll second that, but I do have a question.
Sure.
Discussion.
The highway salaries, this is not taking away from work being done, this is because of workman's comp?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. But,
All right, so any more
discussion? Yeah.
No.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, line item 2526-12 is in Building Maintenance Department. This is a transfer within the department from part-time wages to address funds that were needed in their professional services line. This is the line where most of their sort of annual services are done, whether it's pest control, dumpster clean out.
the $60,000 line,
Right, right,
yep. And they need extra funds.
right.
Well, I'll move approval of line item transfer 2526-12 for $5,000, but I do have a question
Okay.
later.
Second in discussion, yes.
So my question is, what are we forgoing in terms of paying work by moving money out of part-time wages?
So we just have a surplus in that account because the amount of part-time service that we thought we were going to use, we aren't using. And it's mostly custodial.
And, okay, this is custodial.
Yeah, it's custodial, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you're fairly confident?
Yes,
we're not gonna need it
absolutely.
for the rest of the year?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I,
All right.
Thank you. Next
That was an
item.
aye from me.
Got it.
The next is in building maintenance, and this is unfortunately the second time we've had to do this, but as discussed and mentioned by Brad in this budget presentation, we continue to have failures, some related to the weather, a lot in the HVAC area. I've had them highlight a few of the items that were costly that had happened, including most recently an air compressor failure here at Town Hall for the sprinkler system, which we had to bring someone in. We even discussed it, if you remember at that meeting, he mentioned the air compressor, and like a week later it failed. And so we had to have someone come in and do that so we can keep the building open. And it's just a number of building-related challenges throughout our facilities.
So I'll make the motion to approve the funding request 2526-13 for $25,000.
Second, but I have a question.
Any discussion? Yes.
So how much money does this leave in contingency if we approve this?
If you approve this, it's a sheet at the beginning.
So this is moving from contingency to our repair maintenance building
Right.
line.
Right.
And we're being judicious about contingency this year because we're going to need every penny of it.
That's why I'm asking.
197,000, just under 200,000.
And we started at what?
We started at 300.
But
300.
But working in this town ruined me for looking at snow because I started to see dollar signs instead of snowflakes.
Especially if you remember.
And it's always on weekend.
Right. So the last storm we had, I was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And the one before that was also Sunday.
Right. And
Yes.
Sunday's double time. So.
Yes, yeah. No, I always see that. Or it's at night.
And they were out last night, despite it not being much, they have to go out and do their job.
It was
a
ice,
it was a
yeah.
weekday.
It was
Yeah.
ice.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness they're there for us.
Yes, absolutely.
And trust me, most of them would rather be home
At
this point.
at this point than working 36 hours straight or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure they're at the point where they don't need to, pay off for any Christmas indulgences.
So we've had motion, second discussion. Any other more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I,
Thank you.
And the last line item transfer is for $17,500, which was discussed earlier. This is for the Engage a Human Resources Consulting Firm, for the search for an administrative officer. And you can see that the line where it's coming from is from the retiring Karen Crosby. So we'll have, because I'm guessing it'll be a while before we actually hire a replacement. And so.
I know there's going to be discussion, but I'm going to make the motion to approve the line item transfer 2526-14 for $17,500.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to vote for this at this time. I think we need to have a broader discussion of where we're going.
So I just wanted to mention since
We've
you brought it,
identified that we needed, we've all agreed and identified, as far as I can tell, that we need an admin officer. And we know that because Tony, one way or another, is not going to be our admin officer in a short period of time, a limited period of time. We can go out and we can decide that we want to post this somewhere, and we can decide what amount of time we want to use to post it somewhere. And if it takes 90 days, and that's 90 days, and if it doesn't work, then we go somewhere else, or we can give it to somebody to do it as their job, and to do a good job with it, and actually find us a resource that'll actually bring us a resource that can get us, that can be here and engaged and starting to learn the job in the time it might take us to do it in another way. So I think this is very critical in terms of getting somebody started on finding us a resource that we all recognize we need. That's where I stand on.
So Mika, I feel your pain. When I walked into the job, the finance director was leaving. And we had to kind of hobble together until we could get, we could advertise and interview and retain the services of a fine new hire, Tony Genovese. But I understand that these transition periods are difficult. At the same time, I think you're talking about a substantial reorganization. I have some questions about the particulars of the job description for administrative officer. And I also, I'm very concerned about the status of the town's budget, so I am not prepared to vote for this
So,
at
but
this
to
time.
be clear, the money is coming from existing salaries, and though I
Yeah,
know
but
you-
it's still money.
Oh, of course. My point is, and to bring it up, because since you mentioned you hadn't heard about this, I believe we did discuss this in our joint budget meeting, that we would need to be doing this. Not that we agreed to do it, but that we talked about with our public works manager or director leaving and other people leaving, that this would come up. So I just want to note.
Well,
I
the issue
believe
of
we did-
hiring would come up, but.
Yes,
but-
and
But not
using
how.
But-
using funds for a search. I believe we did discuss
But
that.
Public Works.
That doesn't mean we
Direct-
agreed to it. It's still open for discussion. But what I've seen, and my concern has been since I came in, and understanding the way that the town staff has contracted, is that the capacity is really limited. And I think the team here has done a tremendous job, but we can't continue to ask them, in my opinion, to do more with less or to take on more. And this is a really critical hire that I would feel best if we had the support of a consulting firm to do. Now, if we had that time within our staff and felt that they could do an adequate job of doing it, then fine. But I'm not sure that's the case. And I think because this fund is not coming from new funds, but it's coming from our existing staff line, I think it's a reasonable use of funds. That's my take on it. So.
Well, you may persuade me in due course, but not this evening.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was that?
You may persuade me with further discussion and elaboration of responsibilities, but
Here's
not
the
this evening.
additional, here's what I'll also offer, Amy, is one, you said you need a job description. That is exactly what the consultant would do, is develop a job description. They develop the job description by interviewing everybody on the Board of Selectmen and everybody in the town, the department heads of every department, is how they identify and develop the job description for this position. We don't have the resources or the time to do that type of thing. We can do what we've done before. We can look it up. We can look at other towns. We can draw things from other places, but that's not about Woodbridge. And as Steve said, this expense, we should have. I can't guarantee anything, nor can they, but we should have a resource in 4 to 5 months, 6 months at the most. If we wait a while we do a an informal, whatever you want to say, a in-house type of a search on this, we could end up with no one and then get started with somebody who's going to take 6 months. I'm not sure that Tony wants to wait that long. I'm not sure that we have that long, I should say. And I feel strongly that we will end up with a great candidate if we're able to leverage the expertise of the firm that we're looking at.
Excuse me, I wasn't, let me just finish,
Amy
Maria.
and then Maria. Yes.
I wasn't clear. I was talking as a job description, the list that you had, the bullets. And I have
The
questions,
17.5 is
excuse me,
specific.
I have questions about the bullets, not about some narrative that whether it's done by us or somebody else as to what a job description is in advertising. So I just need to understand better the role of the administrative officer, and it relates to the responsibilities of the Board of Selectmen under the charter and who's doing what, and I would like to get this straight, because
And
it
that's
is.
exactly what the consultant would provide. That's exactly what they provide. They provide that information, and they do it through research and interviews with the individuals and with the town in terms of what's happening specifically to our town.
So I just want to note that Maria wanted to chime in, so I'm hearing that from Mika, that
I'm
maybe
sorry,
the consultant could provide that.
Yeah.
Maria, if you're able to chime in, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Amy, I just want to say I echo your thoughts about making sure that these job descriptions, understanding who we're hiring and what their roles are. I also understand about, budgetary concerns. I do have a point going off of what Steve had said earlier, and it's, something I was talking to another person in town about hiring all these consultants. And I think that it goes to the fact that we just don't have the bandwidth and capacity in town to do this ourselves because we don't have these people. And if we had people in roles in towns with defined responsibilities, then I think in the future, this is one of the areas where expansion of these jobs and expansion of our staff at town hall will provide us savings down the road, because we will have the capacity to do some of these things in-house, as opposed to always having to go out to a consultant to get this. We're going out to consultants because we don't have the capacity to do it in town. The other thing that I wanted to say is just my limited experience with searches on the Board of Education. That's the type of thing where people always go out to a consulting group that manages that process. For town managers, is that similar? I don't have experience with that, but do most towns, if they don't have a human resources department in their town, are they seeking the guidance of a consultant? And do most applicants respond to consultants more than they would respond to advertisements from towns?
So my concern is
that?
that they're not a town manager. This person is not a town manager. That's not the structure of our government. That's where I have a problem. I don't think it's a matter of a consultant interviewing it. I think it's us understanding our own charter and how it's set up. And I disagree with that concept. And I think you're going to end up with somebody with an expectation for a job and going out for a job that actually doesn't concord with our charter. So,
Nick, do you have any input on that?
I mean, the reality is, for example, it lists policies. The Board of Selectmen says, the charter says specifically that is all policy is responsibility of the Board of Selectmen. There's a number of things that I just think we need to be sure we understand. And I'm not saying no forever. I'm just saying not tonight, because I don't think we've had a robust discussion about how this all fits together. So.
Nick.
What's the expectation for understanding historic intent behind this charter provision? Like, what are you envisioning to better understand that? I mean, the language is what it is.
Right.
I mean, maybe this is
And it's
something ripe for the
broad.
charter commission.
So I believe that structurally, this contemplated a very active first selectman in day-to-day operations. Okay? Not just
Is that why they made
strategic.
it 30 hours a week?
Well,
I can't say that that's true, because the job pays 30 hours a week. It's a part-time job. How could you say that they envision for a job that pays 30 hours a week that it was a very active?
Because
Now, most people are very active. I'd like to think I am, but you have to consider that as part of what you're saying.
I did the job, and I know well it is not 30 hours a week. I actually kept timesheets so that people would have a concept of how much it actually took. But you know what? We still get people to run for first selectman. This is still the way the charter is written. It may be that the charter should be written differently, but it is not a town or city manager and then a mayor and a town council. That's city council. That's not the structure. So I'm just saying that I think that we have to understand that's just, we are changing it if we're saying we want somebody to become a town manager, and then I have a question about what.
We're not.
Well, people have talked in those terms.
I don't think anybody has said that. It's not what we're saying at all.
Mika,
We are saying we need an admin officer, based on what the charter says we require. As a matter of fact, we require an admin officer.
I know
as a
we're
title.
required. I'm talking about what the job description is for an administrative officer and being clear on what that is.
It's an operations type of an individual. It is a full-time job. So that person is very important in terms of what the town, what happens from an operational standpoint here in town. There are other towns that have first selectmen and admin officers or admin managers. They call it. There may be different titles, but they work with the first selectman and the board of selectmen. They don't have town manager responsibilities. Where in those environments, the first selectman does not participate in a lot of the operations, but rather is part of the board and operates from, I'm just thinking, for example, a number of different towns that have town manager type of scenario. But in this case, there are other towns that have admin officers. And that's exactly what we would, I'm not looking to change the title, I'm not looking to change the role.
But that, the
We have to define
description,
the role,
the
and I'd like a
description,
professional to do that.
the description changes the role if they're doing all the operations. And it may be what Tony has practically been doing, but it's not what, and I get it that the times have changed in the 20-plus years since I was first selectman. But when I was first selectman, the operations was very much part of the portfolio of the first selectman. And so I want to understand in this structure, and this is not to beat up on you, it's to understand for the town of a whole, is if you have these lists of responsibilities for the administrative officer, then what's the responsibility of the first selectman? I do think that one of the things that it's a little weak
All of
on
the
right now,
above, Amy.
well, that's not clear. I
All
don't
of
have a
the above.
description.
It's the first
can I
selectman who
interject?
brings together the operations, the financial, and the
But
strategic.
and Maria
That's what
made
you need,
this
but you need
point
resources in order to
earlier.
make those things happen on a day-to-day basis.
Well, Steve,
Yeah.
Otherwise, all you're doing is you're spinning your wheels on a day-to-day basis. But the first
Mika, if I
selectman,
may.
in answer to your question, you asked the question, it's all of the above. It's absolutely being engaged in all of that.
Yeah. So I want to understand better, Amy, because I'm hearing your concerns, and I think it's particularly related to the job description that is laid out with the bullet points. The
Yes.
very top thing there says oversee day-to-day town operations.
Yes.
Whereas the charter suggests that it's an administrative and supervisory role under the direction of the first selectman. It does not have the word operations in there. Is that I'm understanding
Well,
that's sort of the one.
It is under the direction, yeah. So, the way it works is that there's the board of selectmen, then there's the first selectman has responsibilities, but that doesn't, and then it goes down from board of selectmen to the first selectman, and then the administrative officer is appointed and required, and this, other than the fact that the person under 7-13 shall have training and experience in municipal government, right? He performs such duties as the board of selectmen shall from time to time determine. I'm just saying, we're hiring somebody new, we ought to be clear, the six of us, of what
Agreed.
this person is doing, and I don't find that description to be
So-
clear. And in particular, there's mentions of
yeah.
policies which are expressly reserved in the charter. The questions of policies are reserved to the board of selectmen and first selectmen.
So, Amy,
So, I mean, let's
I
just
hear
get
you.
this organized.
So this, what I would offer
I'm sorry,
is
Steve, go ahead.
that I think this is where a consultant can be helpful in helping, put together the description, because a consultant going out to do the recruiting can better craft the job description. Those bullet points are not what's going to go out as the job description, but by bringing in a consultant that can really put the right time in this to say, this is what the charter says regarding this position, here's what is parallel in other towns. That's where bringing in that expertise in recruiting and capacity helps us bring in a person who can do what we need to do.
And what I'm saying is we need to have a discussion
Well-
first.
What
as a
would that
board.
process be like? Would it be the consultant doing it independently? Would it come back to us
No.
for review?
Well, what I would
Yes,
hope,
no.
yeah.
And then the question I have
consultant
is,
completely engages with each of us individually, Andrea.
Yes. So
And with each department head
Mika.
individually to discuss exactly what's needed and what the
Right.
role should entail.
yeah.
They will actually put together a job description
So
that
this-
we can make a decision based on a comprehensive job description. So, Amy, I don't think we're saying different things here. You said you want a job description. That's exactly what the consultant will put together prior to making any hiring, so that we can make a decision based on the inputs that they've received from personnel here in town.
the funding request is to fund the assistance of a human resources consulting firm. In our packet, we have a proposal from Randy Frank Consulting. Is help me to understand, is that the consultant, or is this funding
Yes.
request to fund Randy
We,
Frank Consulting?
We spoke with two consultants, Randy Frank and HR consultants. And as I said before, one of them, their process dictates that they do everything on an hourly basis. And the best they can do is estimate what it'll cost for this type of thing. just so you know, their estimate was $15,000, and that was an estimate at best. That didn't include advertising and things of that nature. That was just the hours that they felt they would spend, and their numbers came in at about 15,000. We spoke with Randy Frank as well. They gave us a flat number of 15,000. We didn't indicate what the other one had given us, and they also indicated that they expect that there would be about $2,500 worth of advertising and possible travel for people here, mileage and things of that nature for people here in Connecticut. What I'm getting at is just that the 17.5 is for us to begin the process of hiring so that this person can start to do the work that's needed, the interviews and things of that nature, so that we can get to a point where we have the information that's necessary to make the hire that we feel is the best hire to make. That's what we're trying to do. I don't know that we have that in-house to be able to do that, and taking it upon ourselves could simply delay the process. And if depending on how things go with the grant, we may not have that time. So we may, it may work out that way, but it may not. And my sense is that why wouldn't we have somebody who does this professionally, who already has resources and contacts and context in terms of the job, to help us in terms of finding the best person for this role?
I really.
And I'm only talking, I don't mean to interrupt Andrew, but I'm only talking about 17.5. I'm only talking about the consultant. That does not have anything to do with the rest of the org charter at all at this point. It's just about getting us started for the admin officer.
I think you all are making compelling arguments, and I really, or points. I really acknowledge the need for this position. I'm struggling to reconcile, in addition to the kind of points that Amy has brought up that I really appreciate and share, is we are, Tony mentioned, we're in pretty much a deficit. He already said we're we're likely to run out of contingency funds this year. 17.5, though it sounds like a nominal amount and like it's already spoken for in Karen's salary, I really feel like now, and even relative to the past couple budgeting years I've been through, we have to be, this is a nice to have and not a necessity of spending. And if we're at risk of running out of contingency, this 17.5 can go towards that boiler replacement that is a requirement that we cannot put off anymore. And I feel conflict in prioritizing kind of financial security as best we can, given how hard it is, given how long we've let things go unaddressed capital wise. So I feel hesitant to support this without, I feel like it's worth the risk of potentially it taking more time to have a little bit more funds available to meet some of, to keep our buildings operational. So that's just my kind of thought process. And
I hear you both.
Yeah.
This is not.
In
These are
addition
not
to
easy
the
times.
funds, though, we don't have an HR department in town. So it's not just the funds that, to go to the, nice to have. We don't have someone whose responsibility this would be.
You're right. But how do we hire normally?
To do this work.
We do have a town council on retainer already who could help crosswalk the charter with the job spec if we asked, this is why I'm saying we've posted jobs before, we filled jobs before, and without a consultant. And so that's, Maria, just to speak to that nice to have thought, that's where my mind goes when coming to that assessment.
There's also an element of what value do you receive for the dollars. Yes, Andrea, it would be great to, whatever money we save, put it toward anything that we need in town. We need an admin officer. What is our best opportunity to hire somebody who will be here? The other element of their proposal that you may not have seen is that they're confident enough about what they do that if within a year this person leaves, even if this person, for whatever reason, doesn't matter what reason, but if within a year this person leaves, they will do another search for nothing. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
I did not see that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had that
So-
with the
so,
superintendent
again,
as well, as I
It's,
recall.
Yeah.
it's, in my mind, it's really kind of taking into consideration the value of what you're doing. Yes, it's $17,500, but is it going, we're hopeful it'll deliver a resource that will be in the town for at least a decade and will help us in every element of what's going on in town besides the financial piece, which Tony will have. So it's, I mean, this is an executive role. In any corporate environment, you would be looking for professional assistance to make sure you get the best executive that you can get.
And once we have this person, this is the person that will do that work going forward,
Mika, in terms of
the hiring work.
in terms of timeliness, I'm not sure that there's any new information we'd have on Tuesday, but I want to note that we are meeting, in less than a week. I don't know if there would be any other information that we could provide that would help in terms of, or at least in fleshing out this description in a little better way that is apart from what we have as the bullets for now. But I understand the sort of the need on the towns, on the operation side here, or the administrative and supervisory roles here, that there's a need to fill. But I also understand your concerns. I don't know if there's anything new that we could bring within a week that would help or not. But
It seems.
Tony, do you have experience with this consultant?
I'm sorry?
Do you have experience with this consultant?
I've, not me personally, but I've called a few towns of people who have used the consultant, and she received positive
we
response.
consulted references.
We did check
References, yeah.
references, by the way, as well, yes.
Understood.
I know of her, and I know she's been involved in many town manager searches throughout the
In Connecticut.
state. In Connecticut, yeah.
Well, so we've had a motion and a second, robust discussion. I appreciate everyone contributing to this respectfully and thoughtfully. This time I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that our last funding
you.
request?
That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna just pull my agenda back up. I was deep in that. The next item on our agenda is the SMMR2 grant resolution for transfer station. And Tony, do you want to take that, or should I pass that to Mika?
Mika,
All right,
he knows
I'll
more
pass-
about that.
pass
Yeah,
it to
no,
Mika.
this is a grant that the state is I believe it's DEP, Amy,
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
is offering. They've actually granted us a grant of $240,000 if we wanted to convert or migrate our transfer station to a composting site and food waste site. But this is really specifically to evaluate. This simply is to evaluate the potential of moving toward a model of waste disposal that seems to be significantly helping other towns in reducing their overall waste. And that relates to having to use particular bags for particular types of solid waste. And this particular grant is specific to identifying within the community whether or not educating the community as to what this is, and then identifying within the community whether it's something that we feel we should, if it's something we want to move forward to, or something we want to explore. But this is specifically for the exploration as indicated in the material that was sent, specifically and only for, there is no risk here. There is no contingency. It's like if you do this, you need that. It's just simply a grant to educate the town and the town residents in terms of options for solid waste disposal.
So Mika, I'm actually quite familiar with efforts to get to a pay-as-you-throw mentality. We were working on that close to 20 years ago. My concern about this right now is that there seems to be disconnect between the realities of our town and the description. In the proposal, it says, it touts that it allows municipalities to, this is page 2, to eliminate, avoid, or reduce fixed residential fees for trash collection. We don't have fees. So then it goes on in the resolution itself, and the third clause refers to our town's, quote, curbside MSW collection, well, I'm sorry, that was me doing acronyms. It refers to our curbside municipal solid waste collection system, and we don't have one. So I think at a minimum, for something like this, you need to go back to deep and find out whether or not that resolution in the third clause can be changed so it's actually factually accurate. Because we as the Board of Selectmen shouldn't be claiming we have curbside municipal solid waste collection in the system if we don't. And then I do have considerable concerns that there are a number of people who right now say the only thing I get in this town is free garbage. So disposal. So I think that if I take it to the transfer station myself. So I think we have to think about the uniqueness of our town, including not only our current garbage fee or non-fee structure. I think we have to think about the fact that we now are a community with bears. So any curbside pickup creates some potential interfaces with wildlife that might be a challenge. So I'm not opposed to going to phase 1 and looking at it if we retain our sustainability committee and other people knowledgeable on the so-called the committee that has to be created. But I do think we need to be sure that the language of the resolution itself is accurate.
I mean, that language, so Deep sends you a bunch of sample resolutions that are just sort of edited.
Sample resolutions.
By staff.
Yeah, in the conversations and
you can
discussions we've
change,
had, we've outlined
assume.
exactly what you just said. We don't charge, and our folks right now like the transfer station in terms of the way it is. And the whole intent here is to just, there's a clear understanding that that's the case. It's like, well, because ultimately there could be a benefit to the town, obviously from a cost standpoint as relates to overall solid waste. So let's talk to people. Let's get out there and send material to people, educate people, and see where they are, and that's it. And then move forward from there. If it's not something we want to do, but yes, we can make that. The change in terms of the language is certainly not an issue because they already know where we stand on this. And I've expressed the exact. I've already expressed to them the exact things that you just said.
Okay.
But this is only a sample, so yes, it can be changed.
So Mika,
So it doesn't need, I don't feel like it needs to be done. They're anxious because the Deep wants to know who's going to move, who wants to move forward with this. It's, frankly, not, because of the way it's been presented, it's not necessarily what, hasn't been a high priority, but it's a grant opportunity for education of our residents in regards to solid waste, and I think we could use all of that we can get. But we don't have to we don't need to do the resolution today. This is just a sample, wanted you to be aware of it, and we'll get something that's very specific and put it on the table and see where we want to go from there.
I just wanted to be factually accurate.
No, that's right. No, something I know for a fact. Deep sends like 6. Here are 6 sample ones that they've used for other towns. So whatever changes we need to make that's specific to Woodbridge, we can be done on Tuesday. You can take a look at it.
Okay, and then another idea that came from Deep years ago was that if you were going to explore something like this, it ought to include something known as either a swap shop or a trailer, where people have stuff that's gently used that they want to put, but somebody can get. Our guys do that informally. They take a perfectly usable, kid's bike or something like that, and they put it on the side to see if anybody before the end of the day actually will grab it. Or chest of drawers. I have one of those now in my basement. It's storage. But I think that is another thing that DEP looked at, whether it was either something that would be used within the community, or there would be volunteers who would collect it and take it to Habitat for Humanity or whatever. So just, you might as well throw that in there if they're looking at ways to avoid, if it's to avoid,
We'll
to
check with
divert
the
throwing
transfer
stuff
station
out.
And Public Works to see exactly what kind of room we have for that type of thing. I know some of it happens already. I go to the transfer station myself quite often. So I know that if they feel like there's a good piece of furniture, they will leave it out, that type of thing. But I don't know what space they have in order to accommodate something of that magnitude.
It
And
might
that
have to
wasn't
be.
anything that was discussed, so I can bring that up with them and see what they say about it.
I appreciate that, thank you. You might be able to put it
You're welcome.
outside the gates,
Yep,
where those
understand.
collection bins are.
Mika has,
Yes,
so first, I think
Yes.
it's really admirable for the town to explore waste reduction opportunities, and I think it's important. I have hesitancy, because through, certain professional avenues and just being an environmentalist, I know very often programs that incentivize or provide opportunity for waste reduction don't have the best track record for actually solving the problem. They just kind of shift it. And we've seen this time and time again transpire in this realm. And so I'm just wondering, with that kind of backdrop in mind, I know our sustainability committee has done considerable work in public engagement and education on composting and waste reduction, recycling. It was to my understanding that it's kind of part of their charge to help employ, implement, explore options for that at the broader municipal level. Have they been consulted on this, brought into this? Have they weighed in? Okay.
I've not met with them yet, Andrea, on this, no.
Okay.
No, but it is, they are, I think they're geared perfectly toward doing this, so.
Yeah, I think, considering the roles, I know they're not an official commission, but considering the roles of boards and commissions being mostly being advisory, I think they are advisory, I would appreciate hearing from them their advice on this before taking action, if that feels.
Yeah, we discussed getting them involved because frankly, we're gonna need help.
I mean, they
managing the
could
grant.
be
We do
the
have to be
steering
managing
committee.
The resource that we use for the
So they would
grant.
take him home?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I think she just
Yes.
didn't realize she was
Oh,
off
okay,
mute.
but, yeah, so.
Sorry.
yes,
That's
I
okay,
understand
Maria.
completely, Andrea, and
Yeah.
that's, I agree. Yeah,
Okay.
we will reach out to them.
So it sounds like maybe we don't need any action tonight. And that being the case, I'd ask that we move on to our next agenda item.
Okay,
Unless
with
there's
the
any more.
understanding potentially that before we take action, we can hear from sustainability?
I mean,
Are you comfortable with that,
I
Mika?
forget what their meeting date is, but they should certainly be made
Oh, yeah.
aware of this, or we
Okay.
I
can
mean,
send
they're planning Earth
And I'll
Day
check
right
if
now.
there's any,
I
if there's
bet
any
they're meeting
concern with
more
timing
than
or
they
anything
want
along
to
those
be.
lines, I'll let us know ahead of time and see what we can do about it, so,
All right, thank you.
yes.
I appreciate that path forward.
Okay, next on our agenda item, on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are we okay with?
I move approval of the January 14th minutes with gratitude to Allison for doing a fine job.
Thank you. So.
Second.
Yeah, so, and we'll approve all the items on the consent agenda, right? Nothing needs to be removed here?
Oh, we do them
We
all at
do,
once?
we've often done them as a whole.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
Okay.
that's-
yeah.
Yeah, okay. I move approval of all the items on the consent agenda then.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
And we have board and commission appointments for our Economic Development Commission.
Yeah, I move the nomination of, appointment, of Bob Hill to the Economic Development Commission. And I don't actually know if there is a 4-year term available. I think he would be excellent in a 4-year term.
Let me pull up.
There is a 4-year term available.
Is it, it's,
Harry Schatz was potentially looking at that role.
this was filling the spot that I think had belonged to Stephen Francis, if I recall correctly, previously.
That's the 4-year spot.
Correct, yes, so that was, yeah, so this is a 4-year term.
So
yes.
it would be, okay, so it
Yes.
would be through December of 2029?
Correct,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, so I make that motion.
I'll second that
A
motion.
second from Mika.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Clerically, Bob, the next CDC meeting is tomorrow, so if you'd like to participate, please come in tomorrow and be sworn in.
Thank you, Bob.
Congratulations.
But please come see the town clerk tomorrow and get sworn in so you can.
I'd like to nominate Terry Schatz for the position to replace Brian Marazzi with the date of 2027.
Second.
Second.
Was that a resume we received last month? Or did we
Oh,
have
we
it?
don't have it in our packet.
It's not in our package. Terry was on the 2030 task force, so this is what we were talking about in terms of.
She's also on ethics.
And
She was also
ethics.
previously on EDC.
Yes, so it was not in our packet, but this is what we had talked about of
What
the merger.
what is her profession?
I'm going to leave that to Mika. Do you want to speak to her experience?
Yeah, well, considering what she's done for the town, certainly this falls right in line with that. And she's also a former member of 2030, and as indicated, wanted to roll that into her expertise and her knowledge in terms of what that committee did into this.
She's in
Would she be
HPL.
the only
I'm
2030?
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry if I cut you off, but would she be the only 2030 carryover?
As it turns out, yes. The other person who was potentially there was another person, but that
It
wasn't
didn't happen.
It didn't
Right.
pan out.
that
Okay,
wasn't done. Mhm. Correct.
thank you.
I believe she's in HR management.
Okay, and that would be through
27. This is- this-
December
this-
2027.
Yes, this is filling the vacancy from the resignation that we received.
Okay.
I'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Make sure you tell Terry too.
Yes.
Before you break up, there's just
I know,
one more
I'm
comment I
hoping
need
if
to
she's
make in
watching, she can
regards
hear, but
to
we'll-
the SMM.
Okay.
The R2, Andrea, to one of the points you made, and I'm sorry to delay everybody and not have said this earlier. The R2 means round two. The first round did not go well, as you mentioned. The second round has shown significantly better results in Guilford, Madison, Kent, and some other communities similar to ours.
Okay.
So this is a new improved version, just so you know.
New and improved.
That is good to know. Thank you. It doesn't change
Doesn't mean
my
that there won't be
perspective on
some-
one
Right.
of
Doesn't do the same, right.
Great. Well,
I forgot to mention
we've
that.
come to the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
At 8:38, mind you.
Thank goodness.
Don't,
Just need a motion to
Jake,
adjourn.
Feel like 11 o'clock
just
now.
make the
Okay,
motion.
very good.
To adjourn.
Second.
There you go. Thank you. We are
Make the
adjourned.
motion.
Maria, thanks for managing.